In the vast palace, workers dressed in white kneel on the ground. The air is filled with a sorrowful atmosphere. Paper money flutters and falls from the sky. The ceremonial officials are grief-stricken. The princess has passed away in the palace. All workers wear white hemp mourning clothes. Meanwhile, outside the palace in linen country, black-clad servants respectfully kneel before a man with a topknot. A red and white feathered parrot perches on the man's shoulder. They report that Princess Ruan Lianrong has committed suicide by poison. The man's finger, which was playing with a bird, pauses. His lips curl up as he sneers. Well, the Shangji Kingdom. At this moment in the Shangji Kingdom, paper money continues to flutter and fall. Workers in front carry soul-guiding banners, while those behind carry a coffin. Inside the coffin lies a young girl dressed in bright red clothes. She rests peacefully. Below her right eye, a faint red birthmark resembling a cloud can be seen, making her particularly eye-catching. The girl's hand tightly grips an exquisite round fan. It seems to still hold the gentleness and sorrow from her life. This scene reminds one of bygone, beautiful years. She is a 15 or 16-year-old girl, just at the age of blossoming youth. Suddenly, a voice echoes from the void. Do you want to try again? The voice seems to come from distant stars, gently echoing in the ear. The girl slowly opens her eyes. At that moment, she seems to see another possibility of life, a brand new beginning. The voice whispers again, gently reminding her, do you want to have a second life? Like those flower petals scattered by the wind, gently falling on the calm water surface, creating faint ripples. The girl slightly raises the corners of her mouth. Her red lips part as she softly but firmly expresses her thoughts. Having heard the answer it wanted to hear, a mysterious force suddenly erupts. The voice continues, then risk your life to save the Shangji Kingdom from destruction. When that deep and loud voice sounds, it's as if some invisible force awakens in the darkness, shaking every inch of space. Inside the coffin, it seems to silently protest against the impending rebirth. It appears to be driven by some mysterious force. The surrounding workers instinctively scatter. The coffin finally falls to the ground, like a heavy mountain collapsing. It makes an earth-shattering boom. A thick white smoke permeates the air, slowly rising from inside the coffin. Like the breath of a ghost, it sends chills down one's spine. And that red-clothed girl, she kneels in the center of the coffin. That voice, sharp and piercing, Kingdom Countdown, 300 days. The girl's vision goes black. When she slowly opens her eyes, she finds herself tightly holding a cup of amber-like wine. Her slender fingers lightly touch the rim of the cup, as if feeling the time settled in the liquor. She wears an exquisite bracelet on her wrist, intertwining with the silk draped over her body to create a gorgeous pattern. Every line reveals priceless quality. Your Highness, Princess. The girl's thoughts scatter like being blown by a gentle breeze. But her gaze remains fixed on that magnificent screen. Those intricate carved patterns are incredibly complex, as if telling ancient stories. The peony patterns carved on the wall are lifelike. They reflect each other, forming a colorful painting. The girl is involuntarily attracted by all of this. Her eyes are full of amazement and curiosity. Even though she hears others calling her, she seems detached, immersed in the beauty before her eyes. Everything around her reminds her that this is the residence of a most noble princess, a world full of luxury and dignity. The girl turns her head to see the palace maid kneeling on the ground before her, her voice full of panic and distress. Your Highness, the Zhen wine is extremely poisonous. Your Highness, please don't be impulsive. Zhen wine? The girl is startled. She holds the bowl in midair, not yet having drunk from it. Looking at the palace maid on the ground, the girl can't help but wonder, what's going on? Why did I suddenly appear in this place? She looks again at the bowl in her hand and the liquid, then at the nervous appearance of the maid in front of her. The girl frowns. Could it be that this bowl contains the Zhen wine? The palace maids continue to dissuade her in a flurry of voices. Although General Ning was unfortunately defeated by the Muse Kingdom, the Shangji Kingdom hasn't fallen yet. That's right, Your Highness. The Shangji Kingdom hasn't fallen. The millions of people in the Shangji Kingdom are counting on Your Highness. Your Highness, you must not take your own life. Hearing the familiar names from the palace maid's mouth, the girl finally realizes what has happened. Shangji Kingdom, Muse Kingdom, General Ning? The girl wails internally. Isn't this the novel I just finished writing? Recalling the busy modern world from half an hour ago, the girl's thoughts are pulled back to that lively work desk. Sunlight streams through the gaps in the curtains, falling on the computer. The coffee cup emits an enticing aroma. The computer screen is covered with sticky notes full of to-do items, reminding of each busy day. The girl clicks the mouse, operating, web page done. The screen displays completed. The comment section immediately fills with new comments. Why did it suddenly end? Why did the Shangji Kingdom just lose? It's not scientific. The author rushed the ending. Doesn't their conscience hurt? The girl adjusts her glasses, takes a sip of coffee. She frowns at the new comments. Oh my, I had no choice. The editor suddenly sent a message saying to end this piece early. So I had to change the Shangji Kingdom's great victory to a great defeat. The princess dies from drinking poison, making it an open ending. The memory ends. The girl can no longer control her facial expression. I've transmigrated, and I've become the princess of the Shangji Kingdom that I just destroyed. Oh my God, help me! Ruan Lianrong doesn't have a chance to fully digest this information. Her hand involuntarily raises. She tries to control the situation by wrestling with her own hand, but all efforts seem futile. She feels helpless because her hand seems to have its own will, not following her commands. She desperately turns to the nearby palace maids for help, hoping to receive assistance. After all, the maids had just kindly advised her not to drink the poison. However, at this moment, Ruan Lianrong finds she can't speak. Her lips tremble, wanting to say something, but not a word comes out. Ruan Lianrong's face is filled with despair, only a sense of helplessness spreading in her heart. Don't just talk with your mouths. Can't someone come up and stop me? The palace maids remain motionless, still trying to dissuade this princess whose soul has been replaced. Princess, don't! Gulp, gulp, gulp. Ruan Lianrong's movements are smooth and natural, as if this is just a casual sip in daily life. She drinks all the wine in the bowl. Ruan Lianrong's hand falls limply, the bowl bottom hitting the smooth bed edge, making a crisp sound. Just like that, the room quickly returns to its previous silence. The palace maids' faces are like golden beans, shrouded in shock and fear. Their eyes are full of disbelief and indescribable panic. Ruan Lianrong's gaze blankly looks at the three people on the ground. Those three pairs of eyes are staring back at her, filled with deep unease and vigilance. Cold sweat silently slides down her forehead. Ruan Lianrong seems stunned, showing no reaction. The good news is that her body can move now, but the poison has already been drunk. She's going to die. Everything is over. Ruan Lianrong cries sorrowfully inside. At this moment, a black-clad young man suddenly appears at the door. The young man looks anxious, apparently having rushed here. Ahon! The young man is none other than the crown prince of Shangji Kingdom, Ruan Ruzhou. Seeing the young man who rushed here, Ruan Lianrong recalls the character settings she gave to the main characters in her writing. This Shangji Kingdom princess she's possessing, Ruan Lianrong, is arrogant and tyrannical, with a vicious temperament, disliked by people. Only her elder brother, Crown Prince Ruan Ruzhou, spoils and dotes on her, treating her like a precious pearl. Ruan Lianrong can't help but feel more fondness for the young man before her. Indeed, a good son of mother. Mother is very pleased with you, but her vision starts to darken. Couldn't you have come a bit earlier? The poison is taking effect. Before losing consciousness, Ruan Lianrong sees Ruan Ruzhou's panicked expression. The next second, she collapses onto the bed. What a sin! It's truly karma. Heaven spares no one. Just transmigrated and already dying. The palace intrigue hasn't even started, and I can't survive the first episode. After being unconscious for who knows how long in the bedchamber, when Ruan Lianrong wakes up again, there's a strange thing in front of her. That book-shaped system is holding a teaching pointer. A book is placed in front of her. Seriously, did you understand everything I just said? Ruan Lianrong props her chin with both hands, staring blankly at the system floating in midair, her mind wandering. A once-in-a-lifetime series. I actually saw a book turning its own pages. The system continues to tutor Ruan Lianrong. Ruan Lianrong quietly shifts her gaze away. It seems I might have understood. The system shows impatience. A poor student is unteachable. Let me explain one more time. Due to your novel's poor ending, many readers were dissatisfied. The reader's resentment was so strong that it pulled you into the novel's world. You must rely on your own abilities to survive in this world and modify the story's ending until the readers are satisfied. You have 300 days to change the fate of Shangji Kingdom. From this moment, your daily performance will be recorded by the system. If the plot development displeases readers, time will be deducted from the 300 days. When it's all gone, you'll vanish into thin air. Ruan Lianrong raises her hand, interrupting the system's endless talk. Teacher, don't most systems usually have some cheat skills? What cheat skill can you give me? The system pushes up the glasses on its nose bridge. I'm just a cold, emotionless system for transmitting and recording, without any skills. Ruan Lianrong feels utterly desperate. At this moment, a knock and Ruan Rougeau's voice come from the door. Ahon, Ahon! Ruan Lianrong is startled. She looks at the system still floating in place. Aren't you going to hide? The system looks unsurprised. It crosses its arms and looks at Ruan Lianrong disdainfully. No need. People in this world can't see me. Besides, how could I record if I hide? Ruan Rougeau pushes the door open and walks in, embracing Ruan Lianrong, smiling with joy. Arong, you're really all right. That's wonderful. Ruan Lianrong's body is tightly held by a tremendous force. She feels her breath almost stop. Every cell in her body struggles to escape that constraint. Her consciousness seems to be gradually leaving her body, floating unstably as if her soul is about to escape its shell. Crown Prince brother, can you let go of me first? Like a small animal whose life is threatened, she uses all her strength to push hard. To her surprise, Ruan Rougeau is actually pushed flying away. He crashes heavily into the wall, then slides down from the wall, falling straight to the ground with a dull thud. The system's expression is no longer as calm as before. Ruan Lianrong points at the unconscious Ruan Rougeau over there. What just happened? The system frantically flips through the book in front of it. Let me check. Soon, the system shows a look of understanding. It straightens the glasses that had just gone askew. A non-reader gave you a setting of infinite strength. Ruan Lianrong's face is full of shock. What? Suddenly, the door of the bedchamber is kicked open. A magnificent young woman, accompanied by guards, storms in fiercely. This person is the crown princess, the seventh princess. The young woman looks unfriendly, her face full of anger. Seventh princess, your past arrogance and willfulness were one thing, but His Highness has treated you so well, yet you dare to harm your own brother. The crown princess points at the unconscious crown prince beside her, shouting angrily at Ruan Lianrong. Ruan Lianrong breaks out in a cold sweat. Sister-in-law, it's a misunderstanding. Really a misunderstanding. Let me explain. Without waiting for Ruan Lianrong's explanation, the crown princess orders the guards beside her. Arrest her for me. The guards surround Ruan Lianrong. To protect herself, Ruan Lianrong starts a frantic brainstorm. Let me think. What do readers like to see? Infinite strength? Ruan Lianrong has a sudden inspiration. They want to see me fight, right? An exciting action story. Ruan Lianrong inwardly puts her hands on her hips and laughs to the sky. Ha! Just wait and see me defeat them in seconds. Ruan Lianrong's movements are as swift as lightning. She lightly reaches out and snatches the long spear from the guard's hand. The long spear seems to lose its weight in her hand. With just a slight effort, she breaks it in half. It falls to the ground with a crisp sound. Then she quickly strikes, her movements like a meteor streaking across the night sky. The guards are sent flying by Ruan Lianrong's cheat-enhanced strength. They fall to the ground. Ruan Lianrong doesn't pause at all. Her last kick is as heavy as 1,000 pounds. She kicks the guards over one by one. Their bodies crash heavily onto the ground, making dull thuds. Finally, all the guards trying to catch her are dealt with. Ruan Lianrong is secretly delighted. Wow, this cheat is great. So sing. She arrogantly looks at the guards who dare not approach. Come at me all at once. Let me show you what this lady can do. As soon as she finishes speaking, several long spears intertwine like an iron barrel, forming an impenetrable defense line, tightly trapping Ruan Lianrong in the center. Ruan Lianrong blocks with one hand. Hey! She forcefully resists the pressure of several spears with her strength alone. Ruan Lianrong secretly exerts force. She lets out a loud roar. But the scene she imagined, where everyone would be blown away, doesn't appear. Instead, she's pressed to the ground by several long spears. Ruan Lianrong falls to her knees, one hand barely supporting herself. She starts to ask the system for help. Teacher Shu, what's going on? What happened to the promised infinite strength? The system leisurely flips through the book. Explanation 2. That VIP membership just expired. So Ruan Lianrong spits out a mouthful of blood. Are you here to make fun of me? And thus, naturally, Ruan Lianrong is thrown into the imperial prison. In the prison, Ruan Lianrong hopelessly grips the iron bars. The system seriously records the events in the book. Day 1 of revival. Nearly killed her own brother. Thrown into prison by sister-in-law. Hearing these words, Ruan Lianrong's face looks even worse. How exactly are you recording this? The next second, the system notifies her of even more desperate news. Kingdom Countdown, 1 day. Ruan Lianrong is thunderstruck. Meanwhile, outside the palace, on this busy street, the crowd flows like a tapestry. People come and go, bustling endlessly. An exquisite carriage leisurely moves through the crowd. Passers-by who see it voluntarily make way. That's the Finjila carriage. Everyone make way. Small vendors bow to the carriage. Thank you, Boss One. Thank you, Boss One. Pedestrians whisper. I heard the owner of Finjila has done many good deeds, but no one has ever seen his true face. Inside the carriage, a man in luxurious clothing has a stern expression. The guard beside him speaks. Your Highness, how long do you plan to stay this time? Upon hearing this, the man's already unpleasant expression instantly changes. He uses his fan to hit the guard's head, saying, How many times have I told you? Call me young master. The guard, holding his swollen forehead with tears in his eyes, says, Yes, Your Highness. The man frowns, somewhat helpless, but says nothing more. Finally, he asks, How have the arrangements been made? The attendant bows. Everything is arranged. We'll act at the third watch tonight. However, at this time in the imperial prison, Ruan Lianrong's miserable situation has changed. She's now being well-fed and cared for by several jailers. Holding a golden, shiny, fragrant chicken leg in one hand, Ruan Lianrong feels unprecedented satisfaction and comfort. She gently lifts her leg and rests it on the crossbeam of a box. The jailer beside her seizes the opportunity to step forward and gently massage her leg muscles with his fingers. Another old jailer skillfully performs acupuncture on her. Seventh Princess, please continue. Ruan Lianrong, munching on the chicken leg, speaks somewhat unclearly. You, as a person, always consider and filter things before acting. You're the late-blooming type, and your emotions also develop later. The old jailer nods repeatedly. You're so right. That's exactly how I am. You tend to overthink things. Seeing how accurately Ruan Lianrong read the old jailer, others can't hold back and ask her to read them too. Ruan Lianrong, gnawing on the chicken leg, is having a great time. After Ruan Lianrong's maneuver, the kingdom's countdown time quietly extends by quite a bit. She raises an eyebrow at the system. How about that, bookworm? Your sister's got some skills, right? The system records in the book, Day 2 of Revival, used modern astrology to fool the guards. Countdown increased. At this moment, the sound of a night watchman striking a gong comes from outside. After 3 dong sounds, the man calls out in a long voice. Third watch, all is peaceful. As soon as he finishes, 2 pairs of masked men in black clothes suddenly appear in front of them. Ruan Lianrong, the jailers, and the men in black look at each other in confusion. The old jailer, with a worried face, mutters, This isn't right. His Highness said only one person would come to break out of prison. One of the masked men in black is also puzzled. The Crown Princess didn't mention sending allied forces to help. Another man in black, seeing the slightly awkward scene before him, realizes something is wrong. This isn't good. It seems someone wants to eliminate us all. To verify if the other side is friend or foe, they decide to use a code phrase. The Heavenly King covers the earth. Spring sleep unaware of dawn. The mismatched code phrases leave everyone silent. The 2 groups of soldiers face each other. They tightly grip their sharp swords. With a crisp swishing sound, the blades gradually reflect a dazzling light. The air is filled with tension and the spirit of a duel. At this moment, one of the men in black interrupts the tense atmosphere. He takes out a red headband from somewhere and ties it around his forehead. Ruan Lianrong watches from the side, eating melon seeds. Wow, so many red headbands. Where did these men in black come from? After tying the headband, don't mind these details. As long as we can distinguish friend from foe, it's fine. The next second, the man in black with the red headband starts fighting with those without red headbands. The clash of swords produces a piercing sound. The scene becomes chaotic. During the melee, someone's red headband is torn off. Now everyone is even more confused about who's friend or foe, and they can only fight randomly. Seeing this rather absurd scene, the old jailer quietly pulls away Wan Lianrong, who is still eating melon seeds. Seventh Princess, you should leave quickly. His Highness said he would send someone to rescue you. But I don't think either of these two groups looks very reliable. The old jailer escorts Wan Lianrong out of the imperial prison. Outside, it's already dark. Only a few red lanterns illuminate a few inches of the ground. The old jailer gives Wan Lianrong a letter and a cloth package. Seventh Princess, this is a personal letter from His Highness and some travel money. He said to find General Ning after you leave, and for you two to run away together. Never come back. Thinking about how she had just pushed Juan Rougeau, causing him to hit the wall and faint, but he still treats her so well now. Wan Lianrong can't help but cover her face and cry, feeling a hint of guilt. However, in this sad atmosphere, she suddenly senses something strange. It's an indescribable tension and unease, as if something ominous is about to happen. She instinctively turns her head, her eyes filled with fear of the unknown. What she sees on the wall makes her tremble involuntarily. There, clusters of shining arrowheads gleam like stars in the dark night. Their sharp tips point directly at her, each flicker seeming to pierce her soul. With a soft swoosh, the arrows cut through the air, accurately shooting towards her direction. Wan Lianrong's face changes drastically, fear surging like a tide in her heart. She feels as if she's standing in the eye of a storm, surrounded by overwhelming danger and endless despair. At this moment, the system appears. A red warning light flashes. Along with the light, a piercing alarm sounds. System alert! System alert! Host countdown is about to reach 0. Wan Lianrong immediately deflates. The series of sudden events have almost made her lose the determination and courage she had when she first arrived in this world. Help! This world is too difficult. Hearing Wan Lianrong's discouraged words, the system snaps its fingers. Distress call received. As a mysterious aura spreads through the air, strange cards suddenly appear in front of Wan Lianrong. They seem to have been summoned from nothingness. Each one falls precisely in front of her. These cards are not connected to each other at all, as if some force is guiding them. Just as she feels confused, a deep and serious voice comes from the void. It asks her if she's willing to embark on an adventure that will determine her fate. Although these 3 cards look extremely similar, the images depicted on each card are different. One card shows a balance scale. Another card is composed of a sword and a bow. The pattern on the last card is actually a bull's head. Looking at the 3 cards in front of her, Wan Lianrong stops crying but hasn't fully reacted yet. She slowly extends her finger and taps the card with the balance scale image. Immediately following Wan Lianrong's choice, all 3 cards flip over. The card she just chose says continue for 1 second. The other 2 say author dies once and author survives barely. Seeing the words on the other 2 cards, Wan Lianrong feels a bit emotional. The chosen card quickly takes effect. In that fleeting moment, just as the arrow is about to pierce Wan Lianrong's chest, the arrowhead seems to be gently held by a mysterious hand. It stops abruptly in midair. There was a brief pause. Wan Lianrong was stunned by this sudden turn of events, but she didn't lose her senses. She quickly reacted, protecting her head with both hands and instinctively leaning to one side, avoiding the fatal blow. Immediately after, there was a piercing whistle. The sword grazed past Wan Lianrong with a sharp hiss in the swoosh, tearing the fabric of her pointed clothes and leaving a visible wound. Although injured, Wan Lianrong felt relieved, because she believed she had successfully escaped this crisis. The arrow firmly embedded itself into the ground, making a dull thud. The arrow's fletching trembled slightly in the breeze, showing the immense strength of the archer. At this moment, Wan Lianrong only felt her heartbeat hadn't fully calmed down. She secretly shed tears and sighed. The system calmly explained the origin of those cards. Just now, 3 VIP users simultaneously activated their skills, triggering the system's choice of fate. The system adjusted the glasses on its nose. You're lucky. You chose C. Ruan Lianrong cried, her heart aching and blood trickling from the corner of her mouth. You're truly my dear reader. The system closed its book. But this arrow is poisoned. Ruan Lianrong peacefully shed tears. Then she fell backward, unable to finish her sentence. In her mind, she silently thought, am I going to die again? In a state between dream and wakefulness, Ruan Lianrong seemed to see a man in blue clothes. He held a folding fan, laughing softly. You can't die so simply. After an unknown period of unconsciousness, Ruan Lianrong seemed to hear voices talking nearby. This voice, Ruan Lianrong gently opened her eyes. Her pupils gradually dilated, adjusting to the dim light. The first thing that caught her eye was the exquisite bedding. On the low table by the bed sat a small incense burner. The burning incense continuously emitted wisps of fragrant smoke. The smoke swirled, seemingly alive as it slowly rose, permeating the entire room. Just then, she was surprised to find a figure standing in front of her. He stood as straight as a pine tree, wearing a white robe. His gaze was deep and steady, seeming to carry an indescribable aura. Ruan Lianrong gently stretched her body, slowly sitting up in bed. Her gaze fell on the man in front of her. She saw him standing with one hand on his hip, the other deftly waving an exquisite folding fan. The fan swayed gently with his movements, adding a touch of elegance. The man's eyes held a gentle smile, as if he could see through everything, yet also like a wise man keeping his depths hidden. Princess, Wen Zhuang has some medical skills. After saying this, Wen Zhuang closed his folding fan. Ruan Lianrong was captivated by his series of movements, momentarily lost in thought. When she clearly saw the person in front of her, she couldn't help but blush, feeling an inexplicable shyness. This person's smile is so beautiful. After a moment, she realized something was amiss. Wait, wasn't I in the imperial prison? Ruan Lianrong immediately became wary of the man in front of her, who called himself Wen Zhuang. Who are you? Wen Zhuang smiled slightly, seemingly unsurprised by Ruan Lianrong's reaction. Your reaction is quite quick. Wen Zhuang calmly explained to Ruan Lianrong, don't be afraid, princess. I mean no harm. I was the one who treated the poison in your body. Just as Ruan Lianrong was about to say something, a series of urgent and loud knocks came from the door. There was no response from outside, but the knocking didn't cease. Instead, it grew louder, echoing in the spacious room. The group knocking on the door was fully dressed and armed with sharp weapons, clearly not ordinary people. Seeing no one answering, the leader shouted, "The Crown Prince orders a search for the missing princess. Search everywhere." Hearing this, Ruan Lianrong felt relieved. She smiled with full expectation. My brother has come for me. That's great. As soon as she finished speaking, her clear voice still echoing in the air, a sharp sword appeared like a ghost. Ruan Lianrong widened her eyes in surprise. Her movements froze for a moment. The long sword was already silently resting against her neck. The cold blade made her involuntarily lift her head. It was a guard dressed in a black uniform. He had appeared silently by Ruan Lianrong's bedside. Each step was so steady and powerful. His eyes were cold and merciless, as if they could see into the depths of one's heart. His voice was equally chilling, as if coming from the bottom of a frozen lake. If you want to live, don't make a sound. The tone revealed an unquestionable command and intimidation. Ruan Lianrong knew she was in danger, but she also understood the importance of remaining silent at this moment. Despite feeling an urge to resist, she suppressed it forcefully. After taking a deep breath, she chose to comply and made no further sound. Wen Zhuang remained silent. Ruan Lianrong also wisely kept her mouth shut. In the room's air, a subtle and tense atmosphere permeated. As time passed, silence gradually spread, like the last bit of warmth on a winter day being silently taken away. However, in this quiet moment, the knocking on the door suddenly became urgent, accompanied by a series of banging sounds. It was like a silent declaration of war. Open the door! Open the door! We'll break it down if you don't. The sound grew louder, each knock seeming more urgent, as if urging those inside to respond. Ruan Lianrong felt this sudden pressure. Her hands involuntarily gripped the blanket covering her, palms sweaty. She felt an inexplicable tension rising in her heart. What should I do? Suddenly, when Zhuang opened the door, holding a golden waist token engraved with the character for wind, he displayed the token to everyone. Gentlemen, this is the Wind and Rain Pavilion's territory. We haven't seen the princess. Please show some consideration. Ruan Lianrong, still controlled by the long sword and unable to move, looked desperate. Why don't you come in and search? When Zhuang returned to the room, closed the door, and glared fiercely. He pursed his lips, looking at Ruan Lianrong. Ruan Lianrong gritted her teeth in defiance. Liar! When Zhuang grabbed the black-clothed guard's clothes, pulling him away from Ruan Lianrong. She forced me to do this. When Zhuang snatched the guard's long sword and placed it against his neck. I'm just a servant. This person forced me here to treat the princess's wounds. The black-clothed guard looked unwilling. Ruan Lianrong sat alone, feeling utterly absurd. What on earth is going on? Shortly after, when Zhuang and the black-clothed guard left the room. In the long corridor, the guard spoke. Your Highness, the person the city guards are searching for might not be able to hide much longer. He made a throat-slitting gesture. Should we just? When Zhuang, looking disgusted, hit him on the head with his folding fan. The black-clothed guard looked pitiful, covering his reddened forehead. This person could die for a mere sword index, showing they can defy death and change fate. The guard joked, it's not worth your highness's concern. When Zhuang hit the guard hard with his fan again, I worked so hard to save her, just for you to kill her? The guard cried out in pain, if we don't act, the crown prince's wife will. Hearing this, when Zhuang's gaze lingered on him for just a moment before moving away, he remained silent, simply turning around. When Zhuang slowly took a few steps until he stood behind the railing. From there, he could see the entire Shangji kingdom. Ruan Ruzhou wasn't foolish. He knew clearly that Ning Wugue needed to be found. This wasn't just for the mission itself, but an important action concerning the bigger picture. Go find Ning Wugue. Tell him the Wind and Rain Pavilion has found the princess. His Highness wants to make a deal with him. The black-clothed guard quickly left after receiving the order, leaving Wen Zhuang standing alone. He muttered, you can't just die like this. At this time, in the imperial palace of the Shangji kingdom, Ruan Lianrong's disappearance was like a time bomb exploding in Ruan Ruzhou's heart. He angrily smashed the teacup in his hand onto the ground. The cup shattered into several pieces, tea splashing everywhere, creating a splash. The guards were so frightened, they knelt on the ground, not daring to raise their heads, fearing greater anger and punishment. Still no news of Arong? They had never seen such a cold monarch. His usually gentle face now looked exceptionally gloomy and stern. His gaze was as sharp as a hawk's, his questioning voice carrying undeniable authority. What about the imperial prison? A guard respectfully replied. The prison head? Yesterday, 2 groups of people went to the prison. Both wanted to take the princess away. They fought until General Ning arrived, by which time the princess had already disappeared. Ruan Ruzhou's anger churned in his chest. His tightly clenched fists made cracking sounds. Every movement seemed exceptionally forceful, incompetent in success, proficient in failure. Seeing this, the guard became flustered. His knee seemed to be hit hard by some invisible force, making a crisp sound. He finally knelt on the ground. Like those around him, they lowered their heads, bodies trembling, eyes revealing fear and unease. Your subject has found that one group of prison breakers seems to be the Crown Prince's wife's doing. Just then, a servant came in to announce, the Crown Prince's wife requests an audience. Ruan Ruzhou, feeling quite irritated, refused a request. Where is Ning Wugue now? The attendant below answered, General Ning is searching everywhere. There's no news of the princess yet. Ruan Ruzhou's face darkened further. If he can't find Arong, tell him to go down and accompany her in death. No need to see me. Ruan Ruzhou turned and strode out of the palace. The moment he saw the Crown Prince's wife, Ruan Ruzhou's face changed instantly. His previously solemn expression suddenly became exceptionally lively. That expression was like flowers blooming in spring, both vibrant and full of life. He slightly raised the corners of his mouth, his voice carrying a hint of pleasure and affection. My beloved has come. At night, the moon hung high in the sky. Ruan Lianrong sat in the corner, holding her head, looking dejected. The system beside her carefully wrote down the words depressed. Suddenly, someone gently knocked on the door. Princess, General Ning has arrived. Ruan Lianrong looked at the package and envelope on the table. You're right, Ning Wugue. It's a letter from Brother Crown Prince. She remembered the things the old jailer gave her when taking her out of the imperial prison. This is His Highness's handwritten letter and some travel money. Ruan Lianrong immediately perked up. He still has money and keeps his word. Ruan Lianrong sat at the table, opened the envelope, and read its contents carefully. Dear Rong, the sword index is as I am. General Ning is a divine soldier. Doesn't your escape from the siege look impressive? Actually, this was all arranged by Brother Wei. Just go with him. Don't worry about the rest. Brother Wei has arranged everything. After reading the letter, Ruan Lianrong couldn't help but shed tears. Tears of relief flowed from her eyes. General Ning Wuge, isn't he my male protagonist? A man of integrity, upright and unyielding. He's also the most handsome man in the Upper Kingdom. This person definitely won't harm me. At this moment, the room's door suddenly opened. 3 people walked in, besides the black-clothed guard and Wen Zhuang. The one standing in the middle was Ning Wuge, whom Ruan Rougeau had just mentioned in his letter. General Ning, Princess. General Ning has arrived, the black-clothed guard said seriously. Then he turned to Ning Wuge. I hope the general won't go back on his word. Ning Wuge bowed to him. Ning Wuge always keeps his promises. Hearing their conversation, Ruan Lianrong was confused. What's going on now? Ning Wuge knelt before Ruan Lianrong. This subject was late in coming to rescue. Please forgive me, Princess. Ruan Lianrong, with a head full of question marks, said, It's good that you're here. It's good. Ning Wuge bowed low to the ground again. This subject led the troops poorly, losing to Mu Zilei. The princess should punish me with death. Ruan Lianrong felt even stranger. No. Actually, I played a part in this too. Ning Wuge continued. A carriage is ready outside the city. I must ask the princess to endure a few days of discomfort. Once we reach our destination, this subject will immediately marry the princess. Ruan Lianrong's smile froze on her face. Why? Thinking of the constantly decreasing countdown of days for the kingdom, Ruan Lianrong quickly waved her hands. General, calm down a bit. What about Lu Feifei, if you marry me? Ruan Lianrong wailed inwardly. General Ning, the Prime Minister's daughter Lu Feifei is a perfect match for you, talented and beautiful. This is the main couple personally chosen by the author. Ruan Lianrong's face darkened, greatly troubled by Ning Wuge's words. What kind of bizarre operation is marrying me? Ning Wuge closed his eyes, his tone full of guilt. This subject is a defeated general. How could I have the face to ask for Miss Lu's hand? Hearing this, Ruan Lianrong twitched her mouth. Brother, something seems off here. Regarding Ning Wuge's previous words, Ruan Lianrong was both confused and bewildered. You don't have the face to marry Lu Feifei, but you have the face to marry me? Wen Zhuang, standing nearby, couldn't suppress his inner laughter. His slight and somewhat awkward laughter broke the original silence in the room. Wen Zhuang's voice echoed in the air, causing people to turn their heads involuntarily. Although the room was silent, his laughter seemed to find an outlet, standing out particularly. He laughed apologetically, his eyes flashing with a hint of innocence and helplessness. Excuse me. I was being rude. As soon as he finished speaking, he quickly opened the exquisite folding fan he carried. The fan gently brushed across his face. It concealed the smile he hadn't managed to suppress. However, that hint of a smile still couldn't be hidden, secretly leaking through the gaps in the fan. Ning Wuge immediately prostrated himself on the ground, his face breaking out in a cold sweat. Wen Zhuang stood beside him, looking like he was enjoying the spectacle and wanting to stir things up. He continued to embellish. In my travels, I've heard that the princess greatly admires General Ning. Ruan Lianrong thought it seems there was something like that. Isn't the daily routine of a female supporting character to compete with the female lead for the male lead? Wen Zhuang had a gossipy look on his face. I heard that when Shangji was defeated, the princess drank poison to die for General Ning. Ruan Lianrong was stunned. There was such a thing? I thought it was about not wanting to be a slave of a fallen country, sacrificing oneself for the nation. Hearing this, General Ning felt even more guilty towards Ruan Lianrong. This subject has failed the princess's feelings. Ruan Lianrong was at a loss for words. Brother, don't be in a hurry to endure. She stepped forward to help Ning Wuge up. Considering the current situation, it seemed she could only compromise. All right, I'll go with you. As soon as she said this, the countdown of days for the kingdom began to decrease frantically. Ruan Lianrong broke out in a cold sweat. It seemed she couldn't go with him. The readers would have her life. Ruan Lianrong let go of Ning Wuge's hand again, stammering, What Yuan Shang said before. Going with you is impossible. Ning Wugue was stunned. Then the countdown added 20 days back. Ruan Lianrong pressed her advantage. I won't leave Shangji either. She silently breathed a sigh of relief. It seems the reader daddies still prefer a female lead who seriously focuses on her career. If it's about making vows, I can do that. The kingdom's countdown increased to 30 days. Ruan Lianrong spoke seriously. Please take me back to the palace, General. As a princess, I should take on the responsibility of saving the country. How can I just walk away? The countdown for the kingdom's fall increased to 100 days. Ning Wugue stood up. Princess, please reconsider. Seeing this scene, Wen Zhuang had a thought. This princess seems quite interesting. Ruan Lianrong smiled. General, do you really want to marry me? Ning Wugue didn't speak. The night breeze quietly crept into the room, bringing a light ripple, stirring the hanging thin gauze curtains. Moonlight shone through the window, as if carried by the wind, becoming brighter and clearer. It was like a huge silver plate embedded in the night sky. Ruan Lianrong quietly gazed out the window. Her eyes flickered with determined and resolute light. She spoke softly, her voice gentle but unyielding. Let's return to the palace. This is an order. Ning Wugue lowered his eyes helplessly. He knew he had no choice but to obey. This irresistible power and responsibility belonged to the princess. Ruan Lianrong appeared righteous on the surface, but inside she was wailing and screaming. In her mind, many ancient poems about bravely facing death popped up. What is owed to the readers must be repaid. Ning Wugue led Ruan Lianrong away. Wen Zhuang bowed respectfully to see the princess off. The black-clothed guard walked to his side, somewhat puzzled. Young master, you're just letting her go like this? Wen Zhuang was unconcerned. Don't worry, she'll come back begging me. Inside the Shangji Kingdom's palace, in the deep night, the carriage slowly drove towards the depths of the court. Its wheels were not hurried, but gently, steadily breaking through this quiet night. The horse hooves struck the stone slabs on the ground, making a series of crisp and echoing sounds. Inside the carriage, Ruan Lianrong painfully clutched her chest, a trace of blood seeping from the corner of her mouth. Her complexion wasn't good. Wait, my chest hurts so much. Ning Wugue was somewhat panicked. What's wrong with you? Ruan Lianrong finally couldn't hold on. She fell forward, dying once in every chapter. Ruan Lianrong collapsed in the carriage. My invaders must really hate me. The next day, in the Finjaila outside the palace, Wen Zhuang was holding a melon seed, teasing a little hamster in a cage. So he didn't fake his death, but actually died and came back to life? The black-clothed attendant sat across from him. Indeed. Now there are rumors among the people that the princess died and came back to life. Shangji's fortunes have run out. Wen Zhuang rested his chin on his hand, with a half-smiling expression. Committing suicide because she doesn't want to marry me. It's quite embarrassing to say it out loud. But he said, even if it's suicide, we should first clarify this marriage refusal. Thinking of the past few days when he revived Ruan Lianrong after she was hit by a poisoned arrow, Wen Zhuang spoke softly, his tone gentle. But the content was truly chilling. Perhaps Shangji's poison wasn't very effective. The black-clothed guard, looking at his master's gloomy face, couldn't help but think to himself. No wonder Shangji spread rumors. You're a pervert. Poisoning your own wife. You're truly a bit of a pervert. The little hamster in the cage nibbled on the melon seed when Zhuang gave it. When Zhuang gently tapped the small animal's head with his finger. I want to see if this Shangji princess is really that unyielding. I'm waiting for you to come and beg me on your knees. The hamster that had just eaten the seed was still lively and active. But suddenly its body began to tremble and shake. Soon it lay motionless on the ground. When Zhuang sat up straight, it should be about time. Their imperial physician should have made a diagnosis by now. Night fell. The palace's tranquility was broken by a hint of tension. The palace was brightly lit. Ruan Lianrong's figure lay alone on that luxurious bed. Beside her, the crown princess sat quietly, her expression unreadable. It was a silent night. The stars outside the window seemed to be affected by the atmosphere in the palace, appearing particularly dim. The imperial physician was fully focused on taking Ruan Lianrong's pulse. He observed every subtle movement of her pulse meticulously. While carefully checking her pulse, he gently stroked his long beard. His brows furrowed as he muttered, "How strange." Suddenly, the physician's brows knitted tightly. He stood up and walked to the crown princess and Ruan Lianrong, bowing deeply. "Your Highness, the princess appears to be fine on the surface. However," he paused, his eyes flickering with indescribable worry. Before the old physician could finish, Ruan Lianrong anxiously asked, "However what?" Her voice became somewhat shrill with anxiety. The physician took a deep breath, choosing his words carefully. He said, "However, there's still unremoved poison in the princess's body, and it's a potent poison." Hearing this, Ruan Lianrong gasped, her whole body involuntarily trembling. Even her voice became hoarse with fear. Potent poison? What kind of potent poison? The old physician fell to his knees, covering his face with his hands, his grief evident. This subject is incompetent and cannot diagnose what kind of potent poison it is. After a long silence, the crown princess finally broke the quiet air. She gently covered her lips, revealing a barely noticeable contemptuous smile. In her bright eyes, she couldn't hide that deeply concealed contempt and disdain. "Physician Zhang, no need to blame yourself. It seems the princess is already immune to all poisons. She drank poison wine before and still survived, didn't she?" "Physician Zhang, go report to His Highness the Crown Prince first. Since the princess is fine, just report truthfully. There's no need to mention the poisoning." Seeing the crown princess speak to this point, the old physician, who had been in the palace for long, knew what he should and shouldn't say. The old physician accepted the order. This subject takes his leave. As the old physician turned to leave, Ruan Lianrong's voice struck him like an invisible lightning bolt. She urgently called out to him, "Physician, don't." With her call, the old physician's steps, originally prepared to leave, became hurried, as if he had heard something terrifying. Ruan Lianrong's eyes were full of pleading and anxiety. "Don't go. If it's a potent poison, how can it be completely ignored?" The old physician's reaction made Ruan Lianrong more certain that the potent poison in her body must be something troublesome. It was only because of the crown princess that the old physician's mouth was sealed. Her only hope now was the old physician. However, the discord between the crown princess and Ruan Lianrong was known to everyone in the palace. Whether to help the crown princess or Ruan Lianrong ultimately depended on who would truly hold power in the future. Without much thought, everyone would lean towards the crown princess's side. After all, she was just an arrogant and incurably poisoned princess. No one would want to help her. The old physician had already hurriedly left Guanju Palace. The crown princess walked to Ruan Lianrong's bedside with a dark face. The atmosphere between them was extremely tense. "Sister's life is truly resilient," Ruan Lianrong retorted defiantly. "Sister-in-law is quite calculating." But unfortunately, Lianrong's life is not destined to end. The crown princess revealed an eerie smile. She looked down at Ruan Lianrong. "I didn't want you dead, but now it seems I won't have to lift a finger. More and more people want you dead." Hearing this, Ruan Lianrong was confused. "What do you mean?" The crown princess laughed. "It seems you don't know yet. His Highness asked a great shaman to cast a divination for you." She slowly leaned down, her eyes full of tenderness and focus. Her lips parted slightly, as if whispering. Each word was clear and powerful. Those words were like an invisible force, pressing heavily on Ruan Lianrong's heart, making it hard to breathe. At that moment, Ruan Lianrong's world seemed to freeze. The surrounding noise and chaos were shut out, leaving only the heavy pressure of those words and the shock deep in her heart. "Sister bears a divine mission. She who knows can obtain the world. You have the blood of resurrection in your body. Your blood can revive the ancient divine sword." Ruan Lianrong's face gradually darkened. "Doesn't that mean they want me to marry first, then kill me to consecrate the divine sword?" Seeing Ruan Lianrong's gloomy expression, the crown princess was in high spirits. She turned her back to Ruan Lianrong, who looked up at her. "Sister, don't just sit there. You'd better prepare for your marriage alliance with Linen. After all, since you didn't die, you still need to fulfill the agreement. Otherwise, our Shangji country will truly perish." Ruan Lianrong felt something was amiss. She raised her hand to gently touch her chin. The princess in her previous life was indeed arrogant, but she didn't make enemies. "Why would so many people want to kill me?" She then thought of the character she had written for the ruler of Linen in her book. Perverted, cruel, murderous, and fond of men. Basically, all the flaws were concentrated in one person. Ruan Lianrong shuddered. "Marriage is impossible. That perverted setting was written by me. I know it too well." The countdown to the country's demise, 297 days left. Ruan Lianrong got out of bed, put on a cloak, and walked to the bedside. She sighed softly. I can only rely on myself to save Shangji. There must be other ways besides the marriage alliance. In that magnificent palace, the air was filled with a hint of freshness, a natural scent lacking in modern cities. Sunlight filtered through gaps in the clouds, bathing the entire courtyard. Everything around seemed particularly vibrant yet peaceful. Ruan Lianrong wore a light, long dress. She had sunglasses on her face, shielding her from the strong afternoon UV rays. She lay comfortably on a carefully chosen lounge chair, enjoying this rare, leisurely moment. Beside her was a small Egyptian table with a cup of milk tea. These sunglasses and milk tea were things impossible to find in ancient times. However, thanks to the system cheat by her side, Ruan Lianrong could still enjoy a bit of modern life's convenience and leisure. While relaxing, she chatted with the system. Bookworm, your system has a bug. Yesterday, it was 297. Shouldn't it be 296 today? She picked up the milk tea and took a delightful sip. So if I just take a stroll every day, do some square dancing, and don't cause any trouble, Shangji won't perish, right? The system beside her showed a disdainful expression. As soon as she said this, the countdown numbers for the kingdom began to drop frantically. Ruan Lianrong spat out her milk tea, and her sunglasses were knocked askew in shock. Why did the days decrease again? Can't you take a joke? Ruan Lianrong began to swear vehemently. Dear readers, Father God, I was just kidding. I swear I'll work hard on my career. Work makes me happy. I love work. Suddenly, a rustling sound came from the nearby bushes. Ruan Lianrong keenly caught this subtle signal. Her eyes, which were originally gleaming, quickly regained their composure. Her expression also calmed down. She gently turned her body and sat up straight on the lounge chair. Who's there? Come out quickly. A worker emerged from the nearby path. The worker looked young and not very tall. After hearing Ruan Lianrong's rebuke, he slowly came out from his hiding place. He lowered his head, looking shy. Upon seeing Ruan Lianrong, he carefully knelt down and bowed. Princess, I am Xiao Fuzi, a handyman in the back courtyard. Ruan Lianrong's face darkened. I dismissed everyone in the palace today. Why didn't you leave? Last night in Guanju Palace, through the hazy candlelight on the window paper, Ruan Lianrong's silhouette inside the room appeared increasingly ferocious. Her figure became more distorted in the flickering firelight, chilling like a demon. This scene stirred up tremendous waves in the hearts of those watching outside. Though they couldn't see clearly inside, they could hear the terrified cries of the workers. Every voice revealed horror and despair, as if in the midst of hell. The workers inside banged on the windows, screaming for help. Suddenly, Ruan Lianrong's movements became extremely violent. She grabbed a worker and without hesitation bit into his neck. The smell of blood spread as her teeth sank deeper. Like an invisible hand, it tinted every breath in the air with a dark red. Blood splattered, covering the windowsill. They stood outside, not daring to move. The princess is eating people. The next morning, Ruan Lianrong lazily stretched and yawned, slowly emerging from her sleeping quarters. A group of workers stood outside the door. They seemed to have been waiting for a long time. As soon as they saw Ruan Lianrong, they immediately knelt down. One worker, unable to hold back tears, said, "My elderly father has passed away. I need to return home for the funeral. Please grant me leave, princess." Seeing this, other workers followed suit. One by one, they wept bitterly, as if pouring out their hearts. Some workers tightly held tablets and hairpins, crying and begging the princess. "My mother has passed away. Princess, my wife has also died." They cried with seeming sincerity. Ruan Lianrong waved her hand, as if helpless. "All right, don't worry. I don't need my own people. Since you already know, those who are afraid can leave." Before she finished speaking, the crowd kneeling at the door had vanished without a trace. Ruan Lianrong couldn't help but laugh inwardly. Was my act that convincing? The system's tool is quite useful. Back to the present, Ruan Lianrong approached Xiao Fuzi step by step. She leaned slightly, whispering in Xiao Fuzi's ear, "Aren't you afraid I'll eat you?" Xiao Fuzi's movement was rather abrupt. He seemed to have made a decision to face death. His lips trembled slightly, his eyes tightly closed, as if fighting a final battle with his inner fear. But finally, he said to Ruan Lianrong, "Princess has saved this slave's life. If the princess wants to drink my blood, this slave is willing." Seeing this, the system popped up to criticize Ruan Lianrong. Look how you've scared the poor child. I shouldn't have helped you play this role. Ruan Lianrong sighed. What else can I do? The whole world wants to kill me now. I could only think of this man-eating trick to protect myself. Ruan Lianrong's gaze softened. She gently helped Xiao Fuzi up from the ground. Her movements were gentle and natural. The initial air of authority she had shown seemed to have been quietly withdrawn at this moment. Instead, there was a kind and warm atmosphere. She smiled, no longer wearing that cold expression, but a more friendly and approachable look. Well, someone needs to take care of things here. You can stay for now. Xiao Fuzi looked straight at Ruan Lianrong. She continued, but we need to change your name. While thinking about how to rename Xiao Fuzi, Ruan Lianrong happened to see the milk tea cup beside her. On the cup were 4 characters: Boba milk tea. Ruan Lianrong had an idea. She raised the milk tea cup and said to Xiao Fuzi, from now on, you'll be called Milk Tea. The system silently criticized, still wanting to drink his blood. Just then, a man and a woman suddenly burst into Guanju Palace. The woman's voice was rough, shouting as she entered, Rong Rong, Rong Rong. The woman was much taller than average. Upon seeing Ruan Lianrong, she walked straight towards her, eyes full of joy. Xiao Fuzi stepped forward to block the strange woman, but due to the height difference, his face was directly covered by her hand. Xiao Fuzi felt helpless and frustrated. He tried to use his actions to stop the mysterious woman, but seemed so small in front of her. She towered over him like a giant, while Xiao Fuzi was just an ordinary person. The height difference meant he didn't even have a chance to touch her. Ruan Lianrong, watching the burly woman approach, stepped back repeatedly, her face full of rejection. No, big sister. Who are you? Hearing this, the woman's face showed a mix of anger and embarrassment. Xiao Fuzi was held by the shoulders in front of Ruan Lianrong, stuck between the two, unable to move. He was in an awkward position due to this strange atmosphere. The woman clenched her fists. I'm your brother. Who? Ruan Lianrong was shocked. She looked at the woman in palace-made clothes and stammered, brother. Someone nearby burst into laughter. It seemed like history repeating itself, as if a similar situation had occurred not long ago. In an awkward moment, someone tactlessly laughed out loud. Ruan Lianrong's gaze followed the sound and found that the man who came in with Ruan Rougeau was Wen Zhuang, whom she had met a few days ago when she was poisoned. Seeing Ruan Lianrong's gaze finally fall on him, he respectfully bowed, his tone full of sincerity. Xiaoming pays respects to the princess. Ruan Lianrong looked at the familiar face with surprise. It's you? When Zhuang smiled, I didn't expect to meet again so soon. Ruan Rougeau's purpose for this visit in female disguise, bringing Wen Zhuang along, was to investigate the nature of the remaining uncleared poison in Ruan Lianrong's body. Ruan Lianrong lay on the bed, placing her hand on Wen Zhuang's. This was a normal posture for a doctor to check a patient's pulse. But in Ruan Rougeau's enchanted eyes, it looked like Wen Zhuang was holding Ruan Lianrong's hand, with some inappropriate desire in his eyes, creating an ambiguous atmosphere. Seeing this, Ruan Rougeau couldn't stand it. He pulled Wen Zhuang away by his thick collar, far from Ruan Lianrong. Hey, Mr. Wen, you're here to examine, not to get so close. Wen Zhuang dropped Ruan Lianrong's hand, turned to Ruan Rougeau unhappily. If your highness is displeased, then you do it. Ruan Rougeau immediately sat up straight, avoiding Wen Zhuang's gaze. You do it. Forgive my rudeness. I dare not question you, sir. Wen Zhuang's expression changed, but his tone was still impatient. If it weren't for our years of friendship, your highness, I wouldn't dare risk entering the palace. Ruan Rougeau looked annoyed, perfunctorily agreeing, feeling like every word he said put him at a disadvantage. Yes, you're right about everything. Then the two started bickering back and forth. When Zhuang continued, you cherish your sister, but I don't. Ruan Rougeau lazily clapped, his voice casual. Right, my sister isn't good enough for you. Watching them argue, Ruan Lianrong felt the atmosphere was strange. She couldn't help thinking these two seemed somewhat compatible. The more she watched, the odder it felt. Hey kid, do you have many questions? Ruan Rougeau, and when Zhuang's argument grew more intense, basically ignoring Ruan Lianrong, she weakly spoke up. Can you two turn around at the same time? They both snapped. Shut up! Ruan Lianrong silently closed her mouth. When the two finally calmed down, when Zhuang checked Ruan Lianrong's pulse to determine the nature of the remaining poison. Your Highness, based on the symptoms, the princess has been poisoned with a 5-day gut-breaking powder. Ruan Rougeau didn't understand these medicine names. He only cared when Ruan Lianrong could recover. Impatiently, he said, "What, 5 days or 6 days? Just cure my little sister quickly. Whatever herbs you need, just say it." However, when Zhuang bowed and gave an answer that stunned both of them, "Your Highness, only the Linen royal family can cure this poison." Behind his fan, when Zhuang's eyes flickered with a peculiar light, "I am powerless." Ruan Lianrong recalled the sword pointed at her that day. Feeling worried, "Didn't you already cure the poison on that sword for me, sir?" When Zhuang explained, "Originally, this 5-day gut-breaking powder would take effect after 5 days. But due to the remaining Zhen wine and sword wound poison in the princess's body." When Zhuang held up his hand, showing Ruan Lianrong a number, "Now, I'm afraid there are only 3 days left." Ruan Lianrong opened her mouth, but couldn't say a word. She staggered back from the successive bad news, falling onto the bed but still not giving up hope. She wanted to know if there was a way to survive. "Is there any way to detoxify?" When Zhuang opened his fan with a swish, smiling at Ruan Lianrong, "I heard that Linen's Prince Luan Yu has already arrived at the capital. Despite hearing of the princess's revival, he still seeks to marry her." When Zhuang narrowed his eyes slightly, looking steadily at Ruan Lianrong, "Why not simply marry him?" "No way." Ruan Lianrong and Ruan Rougeau rejected decisively. When Zhuang hadn't expected such a resolute refusal, he was stunned for a moment, his face looking somewhat unpleasant. He continued trying to justify himself. "I've heard that Luan Yu is charming and handsome." "Absolutely not." Ruan Lianrong's pupils contracted, her eyes filled with fear. "You've only heard he's charming and handsome. Have you heard about his cruel nature, his extreme perversions, his keeping of male concubines, his rapes and abductions? He's capable of any evil, a beast in human form with a viper's heart." Ruan Rougeau and Ruan Lianrong took turns describing all the rumors about Luan Yu's character. When Zhuang's expression had worsened to the point it couldn't get any worse. Seeing when Zhuang's silence, Ruan Rougeau grabbed his wrist and started berating him. "How could I possibly marry my sister to such a trash?" When Zhuang was speechless, Ruan Rougeau, holding his hand, noticed something odd. "Hey, why is your hand so cold?" Ruan Lianrong came up with an idea. "Brother, why don't we kidnap Luan Yu and force him to give me the antidote?" Ruan Rougeau's eyes lit up. He exclaimed, "That could work." When Zhuang watched the siblings whispering and plotting to kidnap Luan Yu, feeling somewhat speechless. Were these siblings fools? Just then, Xiao Fuzi pushed open the bedroom door and rushed in. "Not good, not good." Because he ran in too hastily, Xiao Fuzi tripped on the door frame as he entered. "The Imperial Guard. I saw the Imperial Guard commander leading people here, looking fierce." Ruan Rougeau immediately reacted. He took off his clothes and said to Ruan Lianrong, "Quick, Rong, change into the palace-made clothes. Disguise yourself as a maid. I'll arrange for Mr. Wen to take you out of the palace." Ruan Lianrong held Ruan Rougeau's hand as he was undressing. She frowned, clearly disagreeing with his plan. "Brother, I can't leave. I can't leave you alone." However, Ruan Lianrong was crying inside. "Brother, it's not that I don't want to leave. The readers won't allow me to leave." Ruan Rougeau held Ruan Lianrong's shoulders, his expression more serious and unyielding than ever before. Rong, you must go. The situation with the imperial edict is critical." Though extremely reluctant, Ruan Rougeau chose to reveal the truth. "The young emperor of Muse and the perverted prince of Linen want to kill you to revive the ancient divine sword." Ruan Lianrong was shocked. The emperor of Shangji was not their biological father, but their uncle, and thus wary of them. Ruan Rougeau continued, "And our dear uncle certainly won't spare you either." Ruan Rougeau's face darkened. "Last time I secretly let you out of the palace. He's now using it against me, confining me. He wants to use this to depose me. By sending the Imperial Guard now, he probably wants to take you to tonight's stargazing assembly." At this moment, a group of Imperial Guards had already arrived. However, Ruan Lianrong wasn't afraid. Instead, she seemed to be filled with fighting spirit. "Brother, it's time for us to fight back." She gripped Ruan Rougeau's hand tightly. "The Emperor suddenly calling for a stargazing assembly is just to use me to change the purple star's image, so he can legitimately depose you, right?" Ruan Lianrong spoke firmly. "I won't let him have his way." When Zhuang, who had been silent for a while, suddenly spoke up, his thoughts differed from the two. He didn't believe these Imperial Guards were here for Ruan Lianrong. "I'm afraid these guards are here for you, Your Highness." Hearing Wen Zhuang's words, both were stunned. As they spoke, the Imperial Guards had reached the bedroom door. Crown Prince, 7th Princess. The Imperial Guard commander bowed respectfully at the door. The Emperor has specially ordered me to escort you to the stargazing assembly. Someone inside responded, "Come in." The Imperial Guard commander pushed open the door. He then summoned a servant. The servant was holding a tray with a set of formal clothes. "Please change first, Your Highness," he continued. "The Emperor instructed me to tell the Crown Prince, if you want to see the princess, just bring her over. Dressing like this is truly undignified." Though the words were ordinary, they were laced with control and oppression towards Ruan Ruzhou. It was unclear whether this was truly the Emperor's command, or just someone throwing stones at a fallen crown prince who had lost real power. Ruan Lianrong stepped forward. "What dignity are you talking about?" She stood before the Imperial Guard commander with her arms crossed, looking down at him. "Commander Xiao, is it dignified when you sneak around with the palace concubines?" Thinking of the scene she had written about Commander Zhao's affair with a palace concubine, Ruan Lianrong felt secretly pleased. "I could expose all your secrets in a minute." Though she had her verbal victory, they still had to go to the stargazing assembly with the Imperial Guard. In Shangji, people revered the war stars. The royal family had established the Celestial Office, which managed all matters related to war stars and sacrifices. They held an annual stargazing assembly at the Stargazing Tower. The Stargazing Assembly mainly observed national trends and prayed for the people's well-being. The Stargazing Tower stood atop a high mountain, said to be the closest place to the stars. Ruan Lianrong's mother had once been a sensational shaman in Shangji. Unfortunately, Ruan Lianrong's mother died of illness in her 3rd year as an imperial consort. That year, Ruan Lianrong was only 13 years old. The following year, their father the emperor passed away. The palace was in mourning, wearing hemp clothes. The whole country grieved. There were rumors that the late emperor had married a witch, thus ruining Shangji's fortune. Because Crown Prince Ruan Ruzhou was too young, the throne fell to their uncle. The current emperor and empress's willingness to keep Princess Ruan Lianrong was intriguing. Ruan Lianrong walked to the screen. Behind her were the current emperor and empress. "Ronger greets your majesty." Ruan Lianrong knew only a shaman's descendant could activate the mind-reading formation. In her previous life, the princess had been so arrogant because of this. "Ronger, you may rise." Ruan Lianrong stood up respectfully. "Thank you, your majesty." Ruan Lianrong clearly knew how the emperor on the high seat felt looking at her. It was a feeling of remembering an old love through a new person. Ruan Lianrong thought to herself, "Our emperor once deeply loved my mother." She smirked, but love unrequited turns to hate. The empress spoke. "There are still 2 hours until the stargazing assembly. Ronger, go to the side hall to prepare." She showed no kindness to Ruan Lianrong. If not for Ruan Lianrong protecting Ruan Ruzhou, her own son would have long since become crown prince. Ruan Lianrong left as ordered. The empress stared at her back, harboring poisonous thoughts. "You little wretch, after tonight you won't be able to hide anything." Back in her resting place, Ruan Lianrong finally relaxed. She collapsed into a chair, constantly fanning herself. Xiao Fuzi stood beside her. That act was so tiring. Just then, a WeChat group chat interface appeared in midair. The group name was Kingdom Countdown 300 Days with 50 members. Ruan Lianrong sent a message. "Dear readers, shouldn't you give me a cheat code at this point? I'm an imposter. I don't know anything about the mind-reading formation." The system replied. "You set it up yourself? How can you not know?" Ruan Lianrong cried. "I only mentioned it briefly in my novel. I've never actually used this thing." The system sighed. "You brought this upon yourself." A reader named Online, Sending Knives to the Author, sent a message. "Seeing you embarrassed is kind of exciting." Ruan Lianrong was speechless. Another reader named Daily Question, "Has the female lead logged off today?" sent a message. "Hang in there, little cousin." Ruan Lianrong remained speechless. At this moment, a reader named The Male Lead Is Mine spoke up. "I think the male lead will save you." Ruan Lianrong was stunned. "I have a male lead? Who's the male lead?" "The male lead is mine." Reader was muted by the group admin. Ruan Lianrong was utterly speechless. Xiao Fuzi nudged Princess Ruan Lianrong. "Why don't we listen to His Highness the Crown Prince and escape?" Just then, Commander Zhao's voice came from outside the window. "Princess! Princess!" Ruan Lianrong went to open the window. Commander Xiao was crouching on the windowsill. Ruan Lianrong was embarrassed. "Commander Xiao, You're quite skilled at this. Commander Xiao looked a bit awkward. Princess, I've gathered some information. It's best to avoid it for now. The Empress has set an ambush at the stargazing tower. Once the mind-reading formation is activated, you'll be executed on the spot. Ruan Lianrong frowned, screaming internally. She was shocked by the Empress's reckless determination to eliminate her. Don't they know Muse and Linen are waiting to marry me? Commander Xiao stammered as he continued. They plan to use the fifth princess as a substitute. Ruan Lianrong was stunned. Fifth sister. Ruan Lianrong grew angry. She slammed her teacup on the table with a bang. They've really thought this through. They've neglected fifth sister for years, and now they want to send her to her death. Ruan Lianrong said fiercely, Do they think that with me dead, no one can revive the divine sword? Ruan Lianrong continued cursing the Dog Emperor. If he can't have something, he won't let anyone else have it either. As soon as she finished speaking, applause came from the rafters. Someone had been watching everything from above. I didn't expect the princess to be so intelligent. Ruan Lianrong looked up and shouted, Who's there? Commander Zhao's hand was on his weapon, ready to fight the uninvited guest. The person had silver hair and wore a white tiger mask, hanging upside down from the rafters. I'm here to save the princess. In the next second, with a swoosh, the person jumped behind Ruan Lianrong. She froze, not daring to move. Such quick movements. Before Ruan Lianrong could react, the person had scooped her up in a princess carry and left the room. I'll be taking the princess now. Xiao Fuzi rushed to the window, reaching out and shouting, Princess. The person carried Ruan Lianrong over their shoulder to a room. Ruan Lianrong struggled violently, weakly shouting, Put me down! Her voice trembled with fear. She clutched at her clothes, trying to break free from the person's control. They entered a room. Without hesitation, the person threw Ruan Lianrong onto a soft, comfortable bed. Caught off guard, Ruan Lianrong felt dizzy. She immediately looked around warily, seeking a chance to escape. But the man before her seemed as calm as if he owned the place. The silver-haired man removed his mask, revealing an extraordinarily handsome face. It was a beauty beyond words. His attire was not common in the Central Plains, instead exuding a mysterious and alluring aura. His gaze was deep and unfathomable, as if he could see into one's heart. The man stood by the bed, examining Ruan Lianrong with those deep eyes. His lips curved into a slight smile as he let out a low, pleasant laugh. He said teasingly, Of course I'm your. Before he could finish, he had already leaned forward, pinning Ruan Lianrong down. His hand gently gripped her chin, forcing her to look up. With a hint of playfulness, he said, Husband. Ruan Lianrong looked at the unmasked person before her. The unique earring and the dragon tiger pendant at his waist made her realize that this person was actually Qi Feng, the young emperor of Zemu. Rumor had it that Qi Feng ascended the throne at 8, and by 10 he had established his authority in court with thunderous might. Decisive and ruthless, at 16 he had conquered 5 countries, expanding his territory. He was only 17 when he conquered Shangji. It was said he was born under an unlucky star, and all his queens died on their wedding night. Realizing this, Ruan Lianrong nervously spoke his name. Qi Feng openly admitted his identity. Then, Qi Feng's hand moved to Ruan Lianrong's shoulder, preparing for his next move. Frightened, Ruan Lianrong quickly called for him to stop. Qi Feng, as if expecting this, leaned close to Ruan Lianrong and softly asked what was wrong with his little wife. Ruan Lianrong tried her best to stay calm, but she was actually completely panicking. She never imagined that a side character from her novel could be so flirtatious. But then she thought following the plot would be simple. She started to convince herself that she could do it. But she quickly realized now Linen and Muse share the world. They will inevitably go to war. With Shangji caught in the middle, she had to risk everything for her own innocence. She loudly told Qi Feng that she knew how to defeat Linen. As expected, Qi Feng was very interested. He released Ruan Lianrong and sat up, intrigued, asking Ruan Lianrong to explain. So Ruan Lianrong began a long speech to persuade him. Qi Feng was excited after listening. He used this opportunity to pin Ruan Lianrong on the bed, expressing his doubts. He had thought Ruan Lianrong was simple-minded, but after hearing her speech, he instantly realized she was not ordinary. This sparked Qi Feng's interest in Ruan Lianrong. He gently lifted her flushed face, telling her he had an even better idea. Suddenly, a flying dagger came towards them. Qi Feng protected Ruan Lianrong, but the dagger still grazed past them. Hitting a pillar, Qi Feng took the note attached to the dagger. It read, "Only by opening the star-gazing formation can one obtain the Dragon Eye Sword." Ruan Lianrong suddenly appeared beside him, standing on tiptoes and asking the crucial question. Is the Dragon Eye Sword mentioned the legendary ancient divine sword? Qi Feng pushed Ruan Lianrong aside disdainfully, pondering. He hadn't destroyed Shangji initially, thinking to let the country fend for itself, so he never sent troops to conquer it. He never imagined the elusive Dragon Eye Sword would be here in Shangji. Qi Feng bowed to Ruan Lianrong, saying he wanted to take her to the stargazing ceremony right away. Ruan Lianrong was on the verge of tears. The very thing she had tried so hard to avoid had finally come. At this time, many onlookers had gathered outside the stargazing tower. Everyone was anxiously waiting for the ceremony to begin, some even growing impatient. They all hoped for a good omen from this year's stargazing. Shangji had faced continuous natural disasters and calamities this year, possibly due to Ruan Lianrong's resurrection. Some even said that after tonight, the emperor would have Ruan Lianrong sacrificed to the heavens. Many in the crowd agreed. If Ruan Lianrong hadn't clung to General Ning, he wouldn't have been defeated in battle. As they were saying the Xinwu clan should die, Qi Feng arrived on horseback with Ruan Lianrong. The crowd was surprised that Qi Feng had found her. Qi Feng respectfully helped Ruan Lianrong dismount. Suddenly, a voice calling Rong'er interrupted them. Ruan Lianrong's royal brother, and when Zhuang approached, her brother looked at Qi Feng with hostility, pulling Ruan Lianrong behind him protectively. He loudly rebuked Qi Feng, demanding to know who he was and what he had done to his sister. Anger flashed across Qi Feng's face, a sharp knife appearing at his fingertips. Ruan Lianrong broke into a cold sweat, trying to appear calm as she held back her brother. Trembling, she told him she was fine. Hearing it was her brother, Qi Feng immediately changed his demeanor, putting on a professional fake smile and trying to get friendly with Ruan Lianrong's brother. "Oh, it's my brother-in-law. It's all a misunderstanding." Ruan Lianrong's brother grew angrier, rolling up his sleeves and shouting, "Who's your brother-in-law?" He even wanted to fight Qi Feng. Ruan Lianrong quickly held back her charging brother, whispering in his ear that Qi Feng was actually the young emperor of Mias. At this point, when Zhuang started to lose control, cursing Qi Feng internally for daring to steal his woman. It was simply asking for death. Suddenly, someone called out to him from behind. They secretly communicated that all the people arranged by the Shangji emperor and empress had been eliminated. However, Muse had only brought one person and one horse this time. When Zhuang was shocked, thinking Qi Feng was too daring. In the Great Hall, Qi Feng formally announced to the emperor and empress that Ruan Lianrong would be his queen from now on, tightly holding her hand. Ruan Lianrong rolled her eyes, unable to break free. He was internally devastated. It was all because of his own foolishness. If he hadn't tried to portray the main characters as good people, he wouldn't have written all these supporting characters as psychopaths. Now, these boomerangs were all hitting him back. These psychopaths were messing with his mind. The emperor, upon hearing this, immediately declared it inappropriate. But Qi Feng showed no respect, even directly questioning why it was inappropriate. He then dropped a bombshell, saying they had already consummated their marriage. Ruan Lianrong cursed internally when Zhuang stepped in and began logical reasoning. It had only been an hour since Qi Feng abducted Ruan Lianrong. The journey back and forth took half an hour. Adding the time for other matters, it seemed Qi Feng was incompetent. When Zhuang continued to stir the pot, although Muse was powerful, for a ruler to make such a significant decision so hastily was truly disappointing. In an instant, the two men were smiling on the surface but already at odds behind the scenes. Qi Feng took the initiative, questioning Wen Zhuang's identity. He didn't forget to imply, "Are all the people in Shangji, including the emperor and empress, so ill-mannered? Allowing someone without any official title to make such a fuss here." When Zhuang was suddenly speechless. In this situation, Wan Lianrong had a sudden inspiration. Since everyone said she was destined to be an empress, she would change her own fate. She would choose this man without title or rank as her husband. So, following her heart, Wan Lianrong hugged Wen Zhuang tightly. She sweetly told Qi Feng, "This man does have a title. Being my husband is his greatest position." She didn't forget to shyly tell Qi Feng that she and Wen Zhuang were the ones who had truly consummated their marriage. With a face full of happiness, Wan Lianrong gently caressed Wen Zhuang's face, softly telling him she wanted to announce their relationship publicly. Wen Zhuang was stunned by Wan Lianrong's actions, his face turning red. Seeing Wen Zhuang's lack of response, Wan Lianrong pinched him hard. Wen Zhuang immediately snapped into character, seamlessly playing along with Wan Lianrong's act, calling her darling sweetly. Then, with newfound confidence, Wen Zhuang turned to Qi Feng and angrily rebuked him, saying even the king of Muse couldn't forcibly take someone's wife. Qi Feng seemed to be listening, actually appearing to seriously consider what Wen Zhuang had said. Wan Lianrong couldn't help but think to herself that she could only rely on herself. A psychopath like Qi Feng couldn't help at all. This boomerang deserved to hit her. At this point, the emperor spoke some pleasantries, saying it was Wan Lianrong's good fortune to be liked by both of them. However, Wan Lianrong had more important matters to attend to today. They would discuss this further after the official ceremony. The emperor and empress began to urge them on, saying the auspicious time had arrived. They needed to quickly open the stargazing formation. Wan Lianrong was on the verge of tears. This wasn't an auspicious time, it was her time of death. It was because of her setting that the witch's blood in this body would be drained when touching the stargazing formation. At that time, there would be nothing left of her. She could only summon Mr. Shu. Wan Lianrong asked Mr. Shu, with a helpless expression, if she had any chance of resurrection. Mr. Shu calmly told Wan Lianrong there was no chance of resurrection at all. "Face the storm," he said. But Wan Lianrong didn't give up. As she turned to leave, she kept telling herself she must find a way to bypass this plot point. Suddenly, she was grabbed. Wan Lianrong turned to see Wen Zhuang. He wanted to accompany her. Everyone arrived at the stargazing formation. Looking at the huge formation on the wall, Wan Lianrong had some doubts. Would such a beautiful formation really drain her blood? She really couldn't think of a solution. She couldn't just chop it down with an axe, and the formation couldn't be destroyed anyway. Mr. Shu appeared calmly beside Wan Lianrong, telling her that the stargazing formation was connected to the lifeblood of the book world. If she were to chop it with an axe, the book world would also be damaged, leading to some irreparable consequences. Wan Lianrong then abandoned this violent idea. She gently placed her hand on the formation, thinking she might as well use her strengths. The 36 stratagems were considered the best plans. As the author of this book, how could she not come up with a solution? Well, she really couldn't. Wan Lianrong instantly wanted to mourn for herself. Why did she give Wan Lianrong such a character setting? But suddenly, she had an inspiration. She had once said that Wan Lianrong's life was destined to be a royal sacrifice. But after she transmigrated, she hadn't experienced the royal decree, but was about to experience the sacrifice. She could only make them believe first. She would only be useful if she became the queen and then was sacrificed. At least this way, she could live a bit longer. So she started to pretend. The emperor behind her asked how she felt. Wen Zhuang quickly came forward to support her. Wan Lianrong immediately acted weak, saying she felt a very powerful force. It seemed to be calling her. She even faintly heard a dragon's roar. The three people with ulterior motives all realized this must be the Dragon Eye sword they were looking for. But Wan Lianrong suddenly changed her tune, telling everyone the Dragon Eye sword rejected her. It disliked that she hadn't become the royal sacrifice yet. It wouldn't resonate with her. Everyone revealed their true intentions. At this point, Qi Feng stepped forward, proposing a solution. Why not marry him immediately? This way, she would be the Queen of Muse, a legitimate royal sacrifice. Wan Lianrong quickly denied this. She was very confident that her made-up story could fool them. She opened her eyes and slowly said that she needed to become the empress of a unified empire. Hearing this, Qi Feng calmly stated Wan Lianrong's purpose. After opening the stargazing formation, she wanted Qi Feng to attack Linen. Wan Lianrong was waiting for this. She smiled at Qi Feng, improvising and acting at the same time. She told him that was indeed the case. But King Luan Yu of Linen liked her. If Chi Feng attacked Linen just to marry her, Luan Yu wouldn't let it go easily. He would fight Chi Feng to the death. His love for her was so heavy. She had attempted suicide before to escape his love. Ruan Lianrong's shameless act shocked Wen Zhuang and the emperor. They thought what she said made sense. So they decided to postpone opening the stargazing formation and dismissed everyone for the day. Everyone was pleased. When Zhuang looked at Ruan Lianrong, feeling she was different from before, she was becoming more and more interesting. A few days later, news spread that the princess's mansion was recruiting attendants, both male and female. The conditions were excellent, including food and lodging. People rushed to apply, and those who got in were so excited they ran through the streets. They shouted that they could see the princess now. When Zhuang was confused and went to see what was happening, a guard tore down a notice and handed it to him. It clearly stated that the princess's mansion was recruiting beautiful attendants and would even pay wages. Their main duty was to accompany the princess to appreciate flowers and chat. Such a good opportunity when Zhuang decided to check it out. Inside the princess's mansion, people had indeed gathered. The air was filled with fragrance. Ruan Lianrong was drooling while asking her servants to arrange these beauties into the courtyard. Actually, she had her own plan. The book's setting was that the witch who could switch identities with her would be discovered by her royal brother among these attendants, so she could exploit a loophole. As long as Ruan Lianrong continued along the original plot, she could successfully escape the imperial city. Just as she was feeling smug, a servant told her that someone had left a notice saying they were waiting for her in the back garden. Ruan Lianrong went to the back garden with curiosity. She guessed it might be Wen Zhuang. When she arrived at the back garden, she saw a beauty playing the zither. Ruan Lianrong instantly blushed. Upon seeing Ruan Lianrong, the person playing the zither stopped the music. The person gently introduced themselves to the princess. Their name was Jiang Qixin. They had left the private notice hoping to pay respects to the princess. They only wished to greet the princess. Hearing this name, Ruan Lianrong's heart skipped a beat. She asked again if the person before her was really called Jiang Qixin. The answer was of course affirmative. Jiang Qixin even asked in surprise if she knew them. Ruan Lianrong instinctively gave an affirmative answer, but then denied her own statement, claiming she didn't know him. But they would soon get to know each other. It turned out that the master of the Dark Night Pavilion was Jiang Qixin. His real name was Jiang Yelan. When wandering among the common people, he disguised himself as a love poet called Jiang Qixin. But this person was supposed to appear much later in the story. Why did he show up so early? He was the hope of the Shangji kingdom. Ruan Lianrong was secretly delighted, looking at the person in front of her with ill intentions. There really was always hope. Jiang Qixin, seeing Ruan Lianrong's expression, became a bit scared, thinking she might do something. He could only wave his hand, explaining that he was just a small zither player. The princess didn't need to be so polite. Ruan Lianrong immediately stepped forward to express her attitude, telling Jiang Qixin that he wasn't an ordinary zither player. His zither was the most sacred weapon. The music he played was the most beautiful divine music, and he was the light in her heart. Jiang Qixin looked embarrassed. He silently wondered if Ruan Lianrong knew him, but Ruan Lianrong hadn't realized this. She hugged the zither, her heart filled with a beautiful vision. Now there was finally hope for saving the country. So she told Jiang Qixin that since he had left his private notice, he was now an advisor to the princess's mansion. The princess's mansion could protect him in various ways. She then returned the zither to Jiang Qixin. However, Ruan Lianrong accidentally stepped on Jiang Qixin's foot. He dropped the zither, which fell towards Jiang Qixin's arms. Indeed, it fell into his arms. At that moment, her heart was racing. The atmosphere was unusually ambiguous. Both of their faces turned slightly red. In reality, their hands were trying their best to grab the zither that had just flown out, and they fell to the ground in a strange posture. When Zhuang, who saw this scene from afar, angrily hit a tree trunk and let out a cold laugh. He looked sourly at the two disheveled people in the distance. Walking nearby, he reminded the seventh princess that her injuries hadn't fully healed yet. In such cold weather, she should take care of her health. Ruan Lianrong immediately got up from Jiang Qixin, tidied her clothes, and awkwardly responded that indeed it was getting late. She should go back soon. Before she finished speaking, Jiang Qixin sneakily moved closer again. He gently whispered in Ruan Lianrong's ear, saying she had guessed his clothes, so he was disheveled. Ruan Lianrong almost lost control. Then, Jiang Qixin resumed his gentlemanlike appearance. Ruan Lianrong felt that if she stayed any longer, she would become a pervert. She thought to herself that beauty was misleading. She could only make an excuse about preparing for tonight's banquet and left first. When Zhuang and Jiang Qixian finally faced each other, when Zhuang directly pointed out Jiang Qixian's identity, the master of the Dark Knight Pavilion actually had such an elegant alias. He wondered what he was doing infiltrating the princess's mansion. Jiang Qixian wasn't flustered and sarcastically replied that he didn't expect the ruler of Linen to be at the princess's mansion as well. The two immediately became tense. When Zhuang retreated from the battlefield first, Jiang Qixian hugged his zither tightly. He started to get excited. The cicadas chirped incessantly in the princess's mansion at night. At the banquet, Ruan Lianrong looked at the delicious food served on the table, drooling. But she pretended to be reserved and said it would be best if everyone enjoyed the food together. The guard said that the snow lotus fruit was personally picked by Wen Zhuang for the princess. He hoped the princess would try it. The maid said that Jiang Qixian personally cooked royal jelly almond cookies for the princess. She hoped the princess would try the soft lotus paste. Ruan Lianrong started to feel conflicted. Eating both together would surely upset her stomach. But choosing between the two was indeed difficult. Both were not easy to deal with. It was truly frustrating. At this moment, when Zhuang and Jiang Qixian stood up simultaneously, one said the princess's injuries hadn't healed, so she should eat the fresh snow lotus fruit. It's good for her health. She should eat mine. The other said royal jelly was extremely precious after surgery, perfect for nourishing the princess's body. Of course, she should eat my soft lotus paste. Faced with this pleasant dilemma, Ruan Lianrong couldn't help but feel worried. They were just advisors, yet already jealous of each other. If this were in the harem, wouldn't she be troubled every day? It's truly difficult to deal with men and petty people. The weak, pitiful, and helpless princess caught between two men, and they had no self-awareness, insisting that she choose one of them. This century's dilemma was really troubling the seventh princess. At this moment, a man stood up. First, he congratulated Ruan Lianrong for recruiting so many talented people. It was truly a blessing from above. However, during this long night, wouldn't the princess feel bored? Why not let him present a special program? Ruan Lianrong became interested. The man continued to add that the princess would surely like it, so she asked him to present it quickly. When Zhuang finally understood, so Ruan Lianrong didn't want to marry him because she wanted to indulge in revelry at the princess's mansion every day. A group of maids brought in a giant lotus flower. The petals slowly opened. Inside sat a man dressed in very bright clothes. His features were beautiful, of unparalleled elegance. It turned out to be the incomparably beautiful Master Fengru. It was said he had admired Ruan Lianrong for a long time and was specially invited to entertain her. Ruan Lianrong, such a peerless beauty in the world, was truly blessed. Ruan Lianrong silently admired him, thinking to herself, she hadn't expected ancient beauties to be so enchanting. But she was also confused, wondering if she had ever written about a character like Fengru. Could it be that her butterfly effect had changed the plot, introducing a new supporting character? While Ruan Lianrong was still pondering, Fengru had already gracefully descended and was confessing his feelings to her. He thanked Ruan Lianrong for giving him this opportunity. As the red sand brushed past, Ruan Lianrong's heart started racing, and she stuttered in response, saying there was no need to be polite. The rapidly decreasing countdown numbers suddenly brought Ruan Lianrong back to her senses. Her rationality returned. Ruan Lianrong quickly realized something was wrong. She had just noticed a suspicious glint of a weapon in Fengru's hand. The next second, Fengru leaped up, wielding a dagger and charging straight at Ruan Lianrong, narrowly escaping Fengru's assassination attempt. Ruan Lianrong was relieved that her throat hadn't been slit. At the same time, she wondered how the beauty had turned into a viper. Fengru, however, appeared calm and composed. Since he had been discovered, he wouldn't show any mercy. With a shout, he lunged at Ruan Lianrong again, saying die. At the critical moment, when Zhuang appeared just in time, he quickly embraced Ruan Lianrong and retreated, contemplating whether to use his martial arts. If he used his skills, Ruan Lianrong might discover his disguised identity. But looking at Ruan Lianrong in his arms, her eyes tightly shut in fear, when Zhuang compromised. He would protect her just this once. Fengru sneered and suddenly rushed behind when Zhuang, raising his hand and stabbing directly into Wen Zhuang's shoulder. Wen Zhuang paid no attention to this minor wound. He calculated inwardly that he might as well use this small injury to gain Yuan Lianrong's favor. Feng Ru pressed the dagger harder. The observing Jiang Qixin silently exclaimed that this was not good. He quietly released silk threads from his hand, entangling Feng Ru's neck and tightening them forcefully, instantly taking Feng Ru's life. Meanwhile, Wen Zhuang, unsteady due to his injury, knelt on the ground while tightly embracing Yuan Lianrong. Yuan Lianrong, who had quietly opened her eyes, was wondering how she was still alive. Wen Zhuang had already loosened his grip and fallen into Yuan Lianrong's arms. It was Wen Zhuang who had saved her. Wen Zhuang let out a muffled groan. Yuan Lianrong came to her senses and realized Wen Zhuang was injured. With a worried expression, she hurriedly called for the imperial physician. Seeing Yuan Lianrong so anxious, Wen Zhuang couldn't help but feel secretly pleased. Then he fell back, relieved, and completely passed out. After experiencing such a thrilling assassination attempt, Yuan Lianrong's emotions were still difficult to calm. With a thud, she collapsed onto the table, unable to stop replaying the dangerous scene in her mind. If Wen Zhuang hadn't taken the knife for her, she would surely have lost her life on the spot. Yuan Lianrong lamented that she had no special abilities, yet the world in the book was so dangerous. She could easily get into trouble like this. At this moment, Mr. Shu, the system cosplaying as Wild Game, appeared again with a mysterious smile. He reminded Yuan Lianrong if she hadn't noticed that the countdown was increasing instead of decreasing. Yuan Lianrong sat up in shock, realizing she hadn't noticed this. Then she couldn't help but tear up. Could it be that her sincere repentance had finally moved the readers? But the next second, the system shattered her illusion. It directly pointed out that Wen Zhuang was the biggest variable. Ever since Wen Zhuang, a person who shouldn't have appeared in the storyline, showed up, many things had experienced a butterfly effect. Yuan Lianrong had a sudden realization and deeply agreed. Perhaps her cheat code for changing fate was Wen Zhuang. Excited, Yuan Lianrong hugged the system and gave it a kiss, praising it endlessly for being so useful. Thinking that Wen Zhuang might be her big cheat code, Yuan Lianrong wasted no time and rushed to find him without hesitation. She excitedly called out Wen Zhuang, Mr. Wen, Dr. Wen all the way. Yuan Lianrong eagerly pushed open Wen Zhuang's door. Before she could finish asking about Wen Zhuang's injury, she was completely petrified. Yuan Lianrong's cheeks burned as she covered her face, her heart racing with excitement. It was her first time seeing a shirtless man's abs in 2 lifetimes. How could she not take the opportunity to look her fill? Yuan Lianrong secretly let her gaze linger on Wen Zhuang's firm abs. But Wen Zhuang threw his outer garment over, directly covering her face. By the time Yuan Lianrong pulled the clothes off her head, Wen Zhuang had already dressed. He deliberately moved close to Yuan Lianrong, jokingly asking if there was something dirty on his body. Yuan Lianrong was extremely embarrassed. But Wen Zhuang approached again, trapping Yuan Lianrong in front of him, giving her a solid cabinet. The ambiguous actions and tone made Yuan Lianrong's imagination run wild. Was he going to kiss her? Yuan Lianrong suddenly felt lightheaded, her face red as if about to explode. She thought to herself that this might be moving a bit too fast. Yet she closed her eyes, secretly anticipating. Just as Wen Zhuang was slowly approaching Yuan Lianrong's lips, the hidden guard squatting on the roof beam suddenly coughed twice. Yuan Lianrong was dazed and confused, wondering if she had just heard the sound of a QQ message. Disturbed by the hidden guard, Wen Zhuang naturally found it difficult to continue. He took the clothes from Yuan Lianrong's hands. He thanked Yuan Lianrong verbally. Yuan Lianrong felt somewhat disappointed and asked, "You just wanted to get your clothes?" Under Wen Zhuang's teasing, Yuan Lianrong awkwardly made excuses to say goodbye and hastily fled from Wen Zhuang's room. She completely forgot the purpose of her visit. After Yuan Lianrong left, Wei reported to Wen Zhuang the results of the investigation into this assassination attempt. They only knew that the assassin came from the #1 assassin organization in the Jianghu, the Bloodbath Gate, but couldn't find out who specifically issued the mission. Wen Zhuang firmly stated that he understood. Then he suddenly picked up Wei, telling him not to squat on the roof beams next time. and Wei didn't understand, but could only nod pitifully. At the princess's mansion, Ruan Lianrong sat in a chair with an air of domineering elegance, resting her chin on her hand and crossing her legs. She thought about her description of Shangji country in the story. In the setting, Shangji was located between Muse and Linen countries, lacking military strength but wealthy. Due to her unfinished work, Shangji's path to wealth was cut off, directly leading to the country's downfall. Ruan Lianrong pondered, then suddenly had a flash of inspiration. There was more than one way to save Shangji. She couldn't put all her hopes on the main characters. Full of aspirations, she imagined that she could be like other time travelers, inventing glass and relying on these technologies. She was sure she could successfully turn around Shangji's defeat and save her own life. Ruan Lianrong was full of confidence. She suddenly remembered the poison in her body, with the antidote only available in Linen. She wondered why she hadn't shown symptoms after 3 days. Just as she was about to go out and ask Wen Zhuang about it, she encountered Qi Feng standing at the door with a smile. Ruan Lianrong was so startled she fell to the ground. Qi Feng was puzzled by the fear on Ruan Lianrong's face. Ruan Lianrong thought about the little psychopath she had written. Of course, she knew best how terrifying Qi Feng was. Ruan Lianrong remained silent. Qi Feng had already started speaking, mentioning the unconsummated marriage from last time, expressing regret. But Ruan Lianrong understood in her heart. This psychopath Qi Feng wouldn't truly regret it. He must be pretending to consummate the marriage, then kill her, as a warning to others. Qi Feng approached, smiling gently, cupping Ruan Lianrong's face. His voice was soft and bewitching. Speaking of the beautiful scenery, he coldly barked at the fear in Ruan Lianrong's eyes, saying he would do as she wished. Ruan Lianrong didn't believe his lies. She loudly questioned Qi Feng, saying he never touched women, asking if she would have to live as a widow after marrying him. Hearing Ruan Lianrong's words, Qi Feng's face darkened. He coldly remarked that the princess seemed to know him very well. In response to Qi Feng's sarcasm, Ruan Lianrong inwardly sighed about the character she had written. She knew best that abstinent handsome men were the most attractive. She blurted out her thoughts, plainly stating that Qi Feng's behavior showed a lack of love. This little psychopath Qi Feng, it was all because of the shadow left by his psychopathic parents. Qi Feng fiercely questioned Ruan Lianrong about how she knew these things about him. Ruan Lianrong realized she had spoken her thoughts aloud. Frightened, she hid behind the table. At this point, Qi Feng smiled helplessly, reassuring Ruan Lianrong not to be afraid. He promised not to hurt her. Then, changing the subject, he brought up Ruan Lianrong's divination abilities, expressing his confusion about the scenes of war he had been seeing in his dreams for the past month. He wanted to get an answer from Ruan Lianrong, but Ruan Lianrong felt a wave of panic. Wasn't this the grand finale scene she had written? She began to speculate about Qi Feng's ability to dream of the original ending. Could Qi Feng also be a transmigrator? Or did he have supernatural divination abilities? Lost in thought, Ruan Lianrong pinched Qi Feng's face, then dismissed the idea herself. Qi Feng grabbed Ruan Lianrong's hand, calling her Rong Rong in a sickeningly sweet tone. Ruan Lianrong blushed at Qi Feng's teasing words. Unexpectedly, Wen Zhuang's knock on the door broke the awkward atmosphere. Wen Zhuang said with a half-smile that he came to thank Ruan Lianrong. Ruan Lianrong felt relieved, quickly pushing Qi Feng away and making an excuse for Wen Zhuang to accompany her shopping. Wen Zhuang was naturally willing. He took Ruan Lianrong's hand, gently gazing at her. Ruan Lianrong blushed again, but Qi Feng held on to Ruan Lianrong's other hand, saying he wanted to go too. Qi Feng and Wen Zhuang both refused to let go, looking eagerly at Ruan Lianrong. Ruan Lianrong was torn, her head spinning. She struggled internally, thinking that choosing either side would lead to a dead end. Ruan Lianrong broke out in a cold sweat and quietly asked, "Why don't we all go together?" Although the night market was lively, Ruan Lianrong, squeezed between the two men, showed no sign of excitement. Ruan Lianrong kept a straight face. She quietly tugged on Wen Zhuang's sleeve, asking in a low voice about her condition. Ruan Lianrong was worried that 3 days had passed, but she was still alive and well. She wondered if she might suddenly drop dead. Wen Zhuang spoke gently, reassuring Ruan Lianrong not to worry. Perhaps she had unknowingly come into contact with something that could counteract the poison. Still not at ease, Ruan Lianrong asked Wen Zhuang again to confirm if she was really fine. Unable to shake her concern, she took Wen Zhuang's hand, asking him to examine her once more. Meanwhile, Qi Feng was looking around. Spotting a lantern-riddled stall, his eyes lit up. He directly pulled Ruan Lianrong to the stall, wanting her to play with him. Ruan Lianrong, however, found it distasteful, thinking it was too childish. Qi Feng was not pleased. He deliberately provoked Ruan Lianrong, asking her to help him win the rabbit lantern he liked. The stall owner cheerfully presented the riddle. Qi Feng looked bewildered, but Ruan Lianrong quickly gave the answer. She then confidently and proudly solved one riddle after another, easily winning the rabbit lantern Qi Feng wanted. She also asked Wen Zhuang which lantern he wanted. Wen Zhuang was taken aback, then mischievously said he also wanted a rabbit lantern. But there was only one rabbit lantern. Qi Feng and Wen Zhuang both looked at Ruan Lianrong eagerly. They reached out to Ruan Lianrong. She found herself in a dilemma again. Before Ruan Lianrong could make a choice, Ning Wuguei suddenly appeared on horseback. He stopped in front of Ruan Lianrong. Ruan Lianrong wondered why Ning Wuguei was here. Ning Wuguei also asked why Ruan Lianrong was here. They looked at each other. Ning Wuguei conceded, explaining that he was ordered to capture a thief who had stolen treasures from the palace. Then a guard reported that the city gates were sealed, but no thief carrying treasures was found leaving the city. Ning Wuguei frowned, wondering if the treasure was still hidden in the city. Behind Ruan Lianrong and the others, a fruit vendor snorted coldly. His figure suddenly moved, rushing towards Ruan Lianrong. The thief tried to pounce on Ruan Lianrong, but Wen Zhuang shouted insolence and pulled her away just in time. Ning Wuguei and Qi Feng had also arrived by then, engaging in a fight with the thief. Wen Zhuang protected Ruan Lianrong and turned to leave. Ruan Lianrong was curious about why they were fighting. After Wen Zhuang's explanation, she understood that this vendor was the thief Ning Wuguei was after. The three fought fiercely, but couldn't subdue the thief. Qi Feng mocked Ning Wuguei, saying this war god of Shangji didn't live up to his name. He then stepped forward and struck the thief. Ning Wuguei scoffed, picked up his spear, and pierced the thief's chest. Seeing this, Ruan Lianrong couldn't help but step back, unable to believe that a living person had just lost his life before her eyes. Wen Zhuang came forward to cover Ruan Lianrong's eyes, gently telling her not to look. But Ruan Lianrong couldn't calm down. Was this the world she had written, where life was so fragile? The two men seemed so accustomed to it. Ning Wuguei apologized for the unintentional disturbance. Ruan Lianrong could only force a smile, saying the two had saved her and she should thank them. Sensing Ruan Lianrong's unease, Ning Wuguei wanted to inquire, but she stopped him and left alone. At night, the system detected Ruan Lianrong's low mood and appeared concerned. Ruan Lianrong was dejected, experiencing for the first time the cruelty of the world she had written, having witnessed a life vanish before her eyes. Ruan Lianrong was determined to change the original war-torn plot. The system didn't ask much, only how she planned to change it. After some thought, Ruan Lianrong firmly decided she couldn't stay in Shangji anymore. She wanted to go to Linen. Having made up her mind to leave Shangji, Ruan Lianrong directly told Ruan Ruzhou Yanming that she wanted to go to Linen for a political marriage. Faced with Ruan Lianrong's righteous and exceptionally determined attitude, Ruan Ruzhou said he was powerless. After all, it was Ruan Lianrong who had initially broken off the engagement. Whether Liangua would still be willing to marry into Shangji remained uncertain. Ruan Lianrong naturally wouldn't give up so easily. She cried that her life was in danger, and only going to Linen could get her the antidote. Ruan Ruzhou was shocked and hurriedly called for Wen Zhuang. Under Ruan Lianrong's hint, although Wen Zhuang was confused about why she suddenly wanted to go to Linen, he still played along with her plan. Ruan Ruzhou believed Wen Zhuang's words without doubt. To save Ruan Lianrong, he said he would do his best to help his sister go to Linen for the political marriage. Ruan Lianrong was happy that Ruan Ruzhou agreed to help, but worried about resolving things with the ruler of Linen. Wen Zhuang naturally praised Ruan Lianrong, telling her not to worry. However, Ruan Ruzhou became suspicious, thinking Ruan Lianrong's lively demeanor didn't seem like someone who was ill. Fearing exposure, Ruan Lianrong quickly left with Wen Zhuang, appearing somewhat like they were fleeing in panic. This made Ruan Ruzhou even more suspicious. After escaping Ruan Ruzhou, Ruan Lianrong directly asked out loud, confused why Wen Zhuang would help her deceive Ruan Ruzhou. When Zhuang suddenly stopped, Ruan Lianrong, following closely behind, bumped into Wen Zhuang's back. When Zhuang turned around with a smile, leaning close to Ruan Lianrong, who was covering her nose and moaning. With a teasing and ambiguous tone, he said he knew he had a doctor's benevolent heart, slyly, and that he had just been praising Lin Onghua. Ruan Lianrong's cheeks turned slightly red, thinking that even a doctor like Wen Zhuang was so handsome. She couldn't help but have some expectations for the ruler of Linen. At this moment, Ning Wugui passed by. The soldier beside him was muttering, "No wonder the princess didn't come to bother the general today." It turned out she had a new love. Ning Wugui looked at Wen Zhuang and Ruan Lianrong in shock. The two were silent for a moment before leaving dejectedly with their people. On this day, Ruan Lianrong finally received the imperial edict for her marriage to Lin Onghua. Accepting the edict, she was excited internally. Now she had the chance to save the world she had written. Ruan Lianrong was very happy. Ruan Ruzhou, however, was somewhat reluctant. He promised he would always be Ruan Lianrong's support. Noticing Ruan Ruzhou's emotions, Ruan Lianrong stepped forward and hugged Ruan Ruzhou, smiling and saying she would definitely find a way to bring peace to this world. Soon, Ruan Lianrong joined the grand wedding procession heading towards Linen. Midway, the procession stopped to reorganize. When Zhuang knocked on the carriage, waking up the heavily sleeping and drooling Ruan Lianrong, he offered her a refreshing elixir. Ruan Lianrong thought it was like Florida water, not knowing it was just a prank by Wen Zhuang. Ruan Lianrong opened the bottle and took a big whiff. The next second, she fainted in the carriage, feeling nauseous and shouting angrily. As Ruan Lianrong was fuming, the carriage was knocked on again. She felt her patience wearing thin. Ruan Lianrong stepped out of the carriage, hands on hips, ready to scold. Before she could finish, she realized embarrassingly that it was Ning Wugui. Ning Wugui reported that they were still 3 days away from Linen. They needed to cross this mountain range to find a resting post. However, they had to be careful of bandits. Ruan Lianrong sat back in the carriage, sighing at the boredom of ancient long-distance travel. The system suddenly appeared, enthusiastically inviting Ruan Lianrong to read the comments. Ruan Lianrong was puzzled by the comments requesting exciting plots of bandits kidnapping the bride. She was just criticizing how cliché copyright the plot was, when Ning Wugui shouted that bandits were attacking and to protect the princess. The bandits had really come, but not to kidnap the bride. Instead, as Ruan Lianrong had sarcastically suggested about robbing and killing, they were here to take the princess's head. Ruan Lianrong was shocked by this dangerous plot. The countdown also started dropping rapidly. Suddenly, an arrow shot directly towards Ruan Lianrong. She closed her eyes tightly, thinking this was truly the end. Ruan Lianrong prepared herself for death. However, when Zhuang appeared just in time to shield her, Ruan Lianrong was so grateful, she almost cried. When Zhuang had saved her once again, Ning Wugui shouted for Wen Zhuang to take Ruan Lianrong away. Without a word, Wen Zhuang picked up Ruan Lianrong and ran. The two rode on one horse. Ruan Lianrong had just finished explaining that Ning Wugui was an undefeated war god, and they should just focus on leaving quickly. Without waiting for Ning Wugui's next move, she was shocked by the rapidly decreasing countdown. Could Ning Wugui die here? Thinking of this, Ruan Lianrong quickly asked Wen Zhuang to go back and save Ning Wugui. Wen Zhuang misunderstood Ruan Lianrong's deep feelings for Ning Wugui. He thought Ning Wugui's life was more important to Ruan Lianrong than his own. But with Ruan Lianrong's affirmative response, he still turned back. At this time, Ning Wugui was surrounded by bandits. Just as they were about to attack Ning Wugui, a loud shout to spare him rang out. Ning Wugui was shocked. Ruan Lianrong and Wen Zhuang, who had left, had actually returned. Ruan Lianrong began to sweet-talk the fierce bandits, saying that their group was all fake. She claimed she wasn't the real princess. The bandits naturally didn't believe her, advancing menacingly with their swords. When Zhuang protected Ruan Lianrong behind him, Ruan Lianrong jokingly said that the undefeated war god Ning Wugui couldn't possibly be captured so easily. She also mocked herself for not looking like a princess, just an unfortunate soul caught by the emperor to be a scapegoat. This time the bandits believed her, saying Ruan Lianrong was similar to the fire-tending girl in their camp. When Zhuang hid behind, secretly laughing, Ruan Lianrong was angry but dared not speak. Seeing the bandits believed her, Ruan Lianrong continued to deceive them. She said killing their group wasn't important, but they shouldn't miss the real target. Under her brainwashing, the bandits believed her and agreed to spare their lives, deciding to take them back to the camp to meet their young master. As the countdown time increased, Ruan Lianrong finally breathed a sigh of relief. They had narrowly escaped danger. The bandits wanted to take them back to the camp. They led them deep into the forest, tying them tightly together. They threatened that if they tried any tricks to escape, they wouldn't survive. Ruan Lianrong shrank her neck and pretended to agree. After the bandits left, Ruan Lianrong started trying to break free from the ropes. Unfortunately, Ning Wugue couldn't use his inner strength to break free. Ning Wugue blamed himself for his mistake that led to their capture and inability to escape. Ruan Lianrong playfully said she could break free. Then, using a dagger she had hidden, she cut the ropes on herself. Just as she was about to help untie Wen Zhuang, she tripped on the rope at her feet. Losing her balance, she instinctively grabbed the rope around Wen Zhuang's waist before falling. Due to Ruan Lianrong's forceful pull, the stake binding the three of them fell. Ruan Lianrong lamented that she was about to be crushed to death. Wen Zhuang knelt on one knee, firmly supporting Ruan Lianrong as she tried to get up. As she rose, her lips accidentally met Wen Zhuang's as he turned his head. For a moment, both of them froze in place. Ning Wugue, unaware behind them, spoke up. Only then did the two awkwardly and shyly come back to their senses. After all three successfully escaped, Ruan Lianrong said they couldn't leave these bandits unchecked. Although Ning Wugue understood border affairs, he wasn't clear about the bandit problem. At this point, Wen Zhuang blurted out that these bandits were from the Qingsha gang. At the mention of Qingsha gang, Ruan Lianrong immediately exclaimed in shock. She knew the plot she had written very well. The Qingsha gang leader's rebellion was one of the important reasons for Shangji's destruction. To change the ending, the Qingsha gang must be eliminated. Having made up her mind, Ruan Lianrong revealed a sinister smile. Frightened, Wen Zhuang and Ning Wugue retreated repeatedly. "Let's take down the entire Qingsha gang," she said. In the moonlight, a servant led the young master of the Qingsha gang to the small hut where Ruan Lianrong and the others were held. "Young master, I've imprisoned the three of them here." The servant bowed respectfully. The Qingsha gang's young master was picking his ear, responding absent-mindedly. Then he stopped his action, a somewhat lecherous smile appearing on his face. "By the way, how does that fake imperial princess look? Is she pretty?" The servant repeatedly answered, "Yes, she's quite pretty." The young master turned around, looking at the person behind him with some displeasure. "If she's pretty, why did you come along?" He stepped forward and pushed open the door of the hut. "Remember, no matter what sounds come from inside, don't come in." The servant had to obey and withdraw. The young master pushed the door open and entered, putting on a serious expression. He sternly questioned the prisoners inside. "You're the ones impersonating the imperial marriage procession, aren't you?" The three people inside were tied to a thick wooden stake, their hands bound with thin ropes. Ning Wugue glared fiercely at him, while Wen Zhuang had little reaction. The young master continued, "Once you've entered Qingsha gang's territory, not only must you hand over all your gold, silver, and jewels, but you also can't escape." He stepped forward and grabbed Ruan Lianrong's chin, grinning. "Especially you, pretty girl. You can be my 38th concubine." Ruan Lianrong put on a pitiful and wronged expression, looking even more pitiable. "Can I only be the 38th concubine?" Wen Zhuang secretly held back his laughter. Ruan Lianrong continued, "If I tell you the true whereabouts of the imperial princess, how will the young master reward me?" The young master's face lit up with joy. He said smugly, "Really? If you tell me the princess's whereabouts, I'll marry you immediately as my main wife." Seeing the fish had taken the bait, Ruan Lianrong chuckled. "All right then. Young master, please come closer." Ning Wugue had already raised a burlap sack, quietly waiting on the side. As the young master leaned in, the next second, the sack was over his head. Ning Wugue immediately tied the opening tightly with a rope. The young master struggled but could only make muffled sounds. The ropes binding the three had already been untied. Ning Wugue and Wen Zhuang began punching and kicking the hooded young master. "Ouch! It hurts!" The young master curled up on the ground, holding his head. Ruan Lianrong watched from the side, adding fuel to the fire. "Young master, didn't you want me to be rougher?" The guard at the door could only hear Ruan Lianrong's voice and the young master's screams. "Young master, scream louder." One servant couldn't bear it anymore. He couldn't help saying, "The young master's screams sound so miserable. Shouldn't we go in?" But another servant was already used to it. "You don't know, our young master plays like this with all his concubines. It's fine." Little did they know, Ning Wugue and Wen Zhuang had finished teaching the young master a lesson and were now hiding behind the door, ready to deal with the two outside. When Zhuang pushed the door open slightly, "I'll take the east side." Ning Wugue nodded. "Then I'll go west. We'll meet up later." The two who were just chatting had their pressure points struck and were kicked away. Soon, all the servants in the Qingsha gang were bound and kneeling before the three. Their young master, hooded, knelt in the middle, each of them grimacing in pain. Ruan Lianrong, holding a tree branch from who knows where, tapped it slowly against her palm. "Is everyone here?" When Zhuang replied, "General Ning is amazing. He even caught the head chef from the kitchen. The entire Qingsha gang has been wiped out." Ning Wugue stood behind, one hand on his waist. "You flatter me." Ruan Lianrong stopped tapping her palm. "In that case, I'll begin the interrogation." She pointed the branch at the Qingsha gang's young master. "Who are you? Speak up quickly." The young master just kept shouting, "Don't kill me! Don't kill me!" Ruan Lianrong removed the sack from his head. The young master's face was already bruised and swollen. He was quite defiant. "My father is the leader of the Qingsha gang. He's very rich. He'll ransom me back." Hearing this, Ruan Lianrong didn't flinch. Instead, her smile became more sinister. "Although the Qingsha gang has been committing all sorts of evil in recent years, at most it's just for money. You came here to kill me. Who sent you?" The young master of the Qingsha gang averted his eyes, seemingly trying to avoid the question. But this only further proved he had something to hide, and that there was definitely someone pulling the strings behind this. While he was still hesitating, a sword was placed against his neck. Ning Wugue said sternly, "I don't want to hear nonsense." The young master trembled and pulled out a piece of paper from his pocket. It was a mysterious man. "He gave me a prescription." With shaking hands, he presented the paper. "He told me to kill the imperial princess." Ruan Lianrong took the prescription. The young master cried heavily. He said he could help Qingsha gang conquer the imperial city. It was all his doing, not mine. Ruan Lianrong looked at the prescription thoughtfully. No wonder Ning Wuge was so powerful. He couldn't even beat those bandits just now. It was because of this powder. Ruan Lianrong didn't waste words. She grabbed the young master's collar. "What other clues do you have about this mysterious person?" The young master was sweating profusely. He shed large tears. "I don't know anything else." But he said his name was Luan Yu. Hearing that name, both Wen Zhuang and Ruan Lianrong changed their expressions. "What?" Ruan Lianrong was about to strike. "That's just hearsay. Do you have any proof?" The young master quickly said, "In my clothes. There's a letter he sent. You can see for yourself." Ning Wugue crouched down and found the letter from Luan Yu in his clothes. He handed it to Ruan Lianrong. "Princess, look." Ruan Lianrong looked at the letter, frowning. The signature was indeed Luan Yu. She clutched the letter tightly. "But in my setting, the ruler of linen, Luan Yu, isn't the type to collude with villains." She looked at the letter, deep in thought. Could it be another butterfly effect? Seeing Ruan Lianrong's prolonged silence, Ning Wugue became worried. He spoke up, "If the letter is authentic, Princess, will you still go to linen?" When Zhuang lowered his eyes beside them, his expression wasn't good either. "Who could it be?" Ruan Lianrong shook her head. "Even so, I still have to go to linen." She kicked the still kneeling young master of Qingsha gang. "Where did you take our things?" The young master quickly pointed to a nearby room. "In the west wing." "Don't worry, we didn't touch anything." Ruan Lianrong discussed with the two. "Let's settle here for the night. We'll continue tomorrow." Ning Wugue acknowledged the order. The Qingsha gang's location was remote, but the natural environment was quite nice. Nestled in mountains and waters, it was very peaceful. A white dove cooed and landed on Wen Zhuang's fingertip. Wen Zhuang caught the dove and slipped a small note into its claw. Then he released the dove again. Wen Zhuang watched the dove's silhouette as it flew away, looking particularly lonely and desolate. The next moment, there was a strange noise from the nearby bushes. "Come here!" Then came a series of attacking clucks. Ruan Lianrong let out an ouch behind the bushes, crouching down doing who knows what. Wen Zhuang was a bit helpless. He saw Ruan Lianrong crawling on the ground, staring at two proud roosters in front of her. Gritting her teeth, she muttered, "I don't believe it. I can't handle you today." When Zhuang walked over, standing behind the crawling Ruan Lianrong. "Princess, it's almost dawn. We're leaving early tomorrow. Why aren't you sleeping?" What are you doing here catching chickens? Ruan Lianrong was exasperated. She stood up with her hands on her hips. It's because they're making so much noise, I can't sleep. I want to turn them into finger-licking good chicken. See if they dare to be so arrogant then. When Zhuang stood beside Ruan Lianrong, silently closing his mouth, Ruan Lianrong, who was originally high-spirited, suddenly deflated. Although I don't know how to do it, I also don't know how to catch them. Hearing this, when Zhuang laughed softly, his smile carrying a hint of indulgence and helplessness, he rolled up his sleeves and walked in front of Ruan Lianrong. Let me do it. Although this commoner doesn't know what finger-licking good chicken you're talking about is, but I do know how to make beggar's chicken. Feathers flew everywhere as the roosters clucked and flapped about. Soon, the mud-wrapped beggar's chicken was placed on an iron rack, sizzling as it roasted. A rich aroma wafted out when Zhuang rolled up his sleeves and used a fan to stoke the fire, intending to make it burn hotter. Ruan Lianrong sat beside him, her face full of admiration. When Zhuang, you're amazing. When Zhuang smiled, it's nothing. I'm used to living outdoors, so I have some skills. The outer clay shell was cracked open, revealing the steaming hot beggar's chicken. Ruan Lianrong tore off a chicken leg. Then I won't be polite. At this moment, when Zhuang suddenly reached out his hand, there's something on your nose. Let me. When Zhuang's hand brushed Ruan Lianrong's cheek, Ruan Lianrong immediately blushed. Fortunately, she quickly regained her composure. Such a beautiful night and delicious food. How can we not have wine? She produced a jug of wine from somewhere. Luckily, I secretly kept this bandit's wine. If you're my friend, have a drink with me. After drinking who knows how much, Ruan Lianrong's eyes were already a bit hazy. Her cheeks were flushed, likely from the effects of the alcohol. She hiccuped. Beside her were countless empty wine jugs. When Zhuang was still roasting chicken, while Ruan Lianrong hugged a jug of wine. When Zhuang, how can you be a doctor, cook so well, and hold your liquor so well? Ruan Lianrong paused, then continued with a lovesick expression that looked somewhat comical. And you're so handsome, too. Hearing this, when Zhuang's hand paused while roasting, he looked up, smiling at the slightly drunk and dazed Ruan Lianrong. Princess, you're drunk. Ruan Lianrong tossed aside the wine jug and moved closer to Wen Zhuang. She imitated a flirtatious playboy, pinching Wen Zhuang's chin with one hand. While grinning foolishly, she tried to flirt with Wen Zhuang. Smile for me, pretty boy. Wen Zhuang froze, his face turning dark. He grabbed Ruan Lianrong's hand that was touching his face randomly. Then he tried to move the wine jug away from Ruan Lianrong. Princess, you can't drink anymore. Ruan Lianrong snatched back the wine jug. She retorted with a red face. I'm not drunk, though this statement had no credibility. Then she put down the wine jug and pounced on Wen Zhuang, still saying flirtatious words. Handsome boy, why don't you just give in to me? She stroked Wen Zhuang's long hair near his ear, mumbling, I'll write books to make money and support the family. You just be pretty. Wen Zhuang's face suddenly turned red. Ruan Lianrong fell, leaning against Wen Zhuang's chest, still fantasizing about their beautiful future together. Future. We can buy a big 3-bedroom apartment, and we can also... Before she could finish, Ruan Lianrong passed out in Wen Zhuang's arms, unable to handle the alcohol. Wen Zhuang was stunned. Never before had a woman drunk herself to sleep in his arms. This sudden situation left Wen Zhuang at a loss. His hand hovered in midair, not knowing where to place it. A servant appeared behind him at some point. Master, I'll take the princess back to her room. Wen Zhuang refused. He stood up, scooped up Ruan Lianrong's knees, and carried her entirely. Wen Zhuang's cheeks were flushed. Looking at the sleeping Ruan Lianrong in his arms, he thought, what a nonsensical little liar. The next day, the group, with vehicles, horses, and manpower seized from the bandit leader, arrived at the border gate of Linen. The guard soldiers stopped them. Oh, who goes there? Ning Wugui, riding a horse at the front, took out the travel documents. We are envoys from Shangji. Here are our travel documents. The guard soldier took the documents and went to fetch the commanding officer. The officer took the documents, opened them, and read carefully. So you're envoys from Shangji. What a pity for you. Ning Wugui fronet. What do you mean? The guard officer smiled apologetically. According to Linen law, once the border gate is closed, not even the ruler can enter or exit freely. I'm afraid you won't be able to enter the city today. However, there's an inn outside the city. As envoys who have come from afar, You can rest there for a couple of days. Hearing the commotion outside, Ruan Lianrong lifted the carriage curtain. What's happening? Ning Wugui turned to Ruan Lianrong and said, the city lord of Yongding, the border city of Linen, is making excuses. The gate is closed, and they can't receive us. They want us to rest in and outside the city. Hearing this, Wen Zhuang, riding a horse nearby, raised an eyebrow. Ruan Lianrong yawned. Due to last night's events, she hadn't slept well and was now extremely tired. Hearing Ning Wugui's words, she didn't think much about it and simply agreed. All right, let's find a place to make do for now. Ning Wugui pulled the reins, turning around, and said to the servants brought from the Qingsha gang, escort the princess and find an inn to stay. The group turned around and headed towards the inn. A guard soldier whispered in the commanding officer's ear, Sir, the inn has been contacted as planned. The commanding officer's previously honest and simple smile instantly vanished, replaced by an extremely sinister and terrifying expression. Remember to do it cleanly. Don't let their blood stain the soil of our Yongding city. The carriage moved further and further away. The three were still unaware of what awaited them. After traveling a few miles, they finally arrived at the nearest inn. The inn was called Silver Right Inn, a two-story building with decent furnishings. Ruan Lianrong stretched lazily as she entered the inn, remarking that she must have a bath tonight. Wugui gave a gold ingot to the innkeeper, booking the entire inn. No disturbances allowed. The innkeeper, holding an abacus in one hand and the gold ingot in the other, was beaming with joy. He had never seen such extravagant wealth before. After receiving the gold ingot, he repeatedly agreed, understood. Ning Wugui said to Ruan Lianrong, Princess, I'll go check on the horses first. You and Mr. Wen Zhuang can go upstairs to rest. Ruan Lianrong nodded in agreement. After Ning Wugui left, the innkeeper didn't keep them waiting long. He quickly came with a tray of room keys. The Tian room is ready for you. Esteemed guests, please go upstairs. If you need anything, just let me know. After the long journey, Ruan Lianrong was starving. Very well, first arrange a table of good wine and food for me. This princess will reward you generously before leaving. After all, Ning Wugui is paying. Ruan Lianrong took a room key from the tray. After choosing the key, Ruan Lianrong followed Wen Zhuang upstairs. Wen Zhuang, what a coincidence. We're staying next to each other. She grinned at Wen Zhuang walking in front of her. Wen Zhuang nodded. The accountant nearby glanced at the two of them. Ruan Lianrong paused as she climbed the stairs. But why do I feel like someone's watching me? That cold feeling coming from all directions made Ruan Lianrong shiver. It felt like multiple gazes were tightly wrapped around her, making it hard to breathe. After a series of unexpected events, Ruan Lianrong had become very alert. She could quickly detect unusual atmospheres around her. Ruan Lianrong instinctively turned her head to look at the people in the lobby downstairs. However, they were all looking down. The waiters were diligently wiping tables. People were drinking tea and eating with their heads down. Everyone was busy with their own affairs. It seemed that Ruan Lianrong's momentary unease was just an illusion. Perhaps she was just being overly cautious, seeing danger where there was none. Even Ruan Lianrong herself was puzzled. Could she have been mistaken? To be safe, Ruan Lianrong decided not to dismiss this as a mere illusion. She quickly walked up behind Wen Zhuang and tugged at his sleeve. When Zhuang turned around, Ruan Lianrong continued in a low voice, I feel something's not right here. It's like someone's always watching us. Does Linen also have those black shops that sell human meat buns? When Zhuang held Ruan Lianrong's hand, reassuring her, Princess, don't worry. Linen has honest customs. There won't be any human meat bun shops. If anything happens, General Ning and I are right next door. Just call us anytime. Hearing this, Ruan Lianrong finally felt at ease. She quickly nodded, no problem. That night, System Mr. Shu leisurely munched on cookies with a face mask on, comfortably watching as the plot had updated to 80%. Meanwhile, Ruan Lianrong lay on the bed pondering, wondering why Shangji would let her come to Linen so easily. The journey seemed too smooth. As she thought about it, Ruan Lianrong suddenly sat up. Resting her chin on her hand with a worried expression, she said to System Mr. Shu, I feel that except for those mountain bandits, we haven't seen a single assassin on this journey. It's really unusual. Besides, Linen's Luanyu is just the reason for the mountain bandits to kill me. I don't know why. Thinking made her head hurt. Ruan Lianrong simply stopped thinking. She got out of bed, giving up on pondering, saying the inn should be safe. She sat at the table and poured herself a cup of tea, saying, I should rest early. System Mr. Shu, however, reminded her, inns aren't that safe. Besides, the system has already perfected this part of the plot. Mr. Shu proudly stated that since Ruan Lianrong was so diligent in her tasks, he'd give her a spoiler privilege. Ruan Lianrong casually sipped her tea, gesturing for System Mr. Shu to reveal the spoiler. System Mr. Shu glanced at Ruan Lianrong and slowly said, the water is poisoned. Ruan Lianrong spat out her tea in shock. She accused Mr. Shu of not telling her earlier. But System Mr. Shu showed no guilt, calmly saying she didn't ask, so it wasn't his fault. Ruan Lianrong was speechless. Angrily standing up, she said, drinking water will kill me, so opening the window for some air should be fine, right? System Mr. Shu spoke again calmly. There are assassins lurking outside the window. If you open it now, you might end up with a slit throat. Ruan Lianrong let out a dry laugh. She hadn't expected things to be this serious. With cold sweat on her forehead, she asked System Mr. Shu if she was going to die tonight. System Mr. Shu calmly replied that the probability of death was 99.9%. Ruan Lianrong was shocked. This meant certain death. She then paced around the room, helplessly, muttering, what should I do? What should I do? Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Ruan Lianrong jumped, asking loudly, who is it? Outside, a waiter with osmanthus wine said he wanted her to try it. Ruan Lianrong leaned against the door, wary. She didn't believe a word of it and quickly declined, saying it wasn't necessary. After the person outside left, she considered her options. She couldn't just sit and wait for death. Rather than waiting for them to act, it was better to find a safe place to hide. Ruan Lianrong pressed her ear to the door, listening for movement. Confirming no one was outside, she immediately took action. She opened the door, sneakily looking around. Seeing nothing unusual, she quickly and stealthily went to Wen Zhuang's door. She pushed the door open, but what she saw was a blood-pumping scene. Wen Zhuang was sitting in a bathtub, raising an eyebrow at her. Ruan Lianrong covered her face, excitedly getting a nosebleed. This was too stimulating. Ruan Lianrong's face turned bright red. At this moment, Wen Zhuang suddenly stood up from the bathtub. Ruan Lianrong quickly covered her eyes, angrily accusing Wen Zhuang of being too bold, while inwardly crying. She didn't want to cover her eyes, wanting to see his abs. She mentally scolded herself. Ruan Lianrong, you're so useless. All talk and no action. Then she slowly moved her fingers away. Such a beautiful man in this sensual atmosphere. In such an ambiguous situation, she couldn't help but let her imagination run wild. In her mind, she played out a little scene. In her imagination, Wen Zhuang gently embraced Ruan Lianrong, his words soft as he said he'd do anything for her. He promised to eat beggar's chicken with her for a lifetime. Ruan Lianrong coyly giggled. Lost in thought, Ruan Lianrong cupped her face, drooling shamelessly. Suddenly, Wen Zhuang spoke, asking Ruan Lianrong if something had happened. This brought Ruan Lianrong back to reality. She saw that Wen Zhuang had already left the bathtub and was wearing pants. Ruan Lianrong was speechless again. Who bathes wearing pants? Historical dramas really can't live up to my expectations. Do ancient people really bathe wearing pants? It's a waste of my excitement. Unaware of Ruan Lianrong's thoughts, Wen Zhuang calmly dressed and tidied himself up. Then he calmly explained that he was taking a medicinal bath, not bathing. He asked again why she had come at this time. Ruan Lianrong patted her head. Beauty really was misleading. She had almost forgotten the important matter. She suddenly stepped forward and tightly grasped Wen Zhuang's sleeve, looking up with a sincere expression. With a vulnerable and trusting appearance, she asked to hide here for a while. Ruan Lianrong said someone wanted to kill her. Wen Zhuang, however, was somewhat skeptical, even suspecting that Ruan Lianrong might be hallucinating due to excessive fatigue from the journey. Ruan Lianrong insisted she was telling the truth. Gesticulating wildly, she explained that assassins were lying in wait outside her window. They were just waiting for her to open the window to slit her throat. She earnestly stated that she had even seen the glint of their large swords, exaggeratedly demonstrating their size. Wen Zhuang was amused by Ruan Lianrong's adorable behavior, laughing to tears. He had just joked about how there couldn't be so many assassins in night clothes perched on windowsills. When the next moment, Wen Yuan proved him wrong by climbing through the window. When Zhuang's face darkened, his body stiffening, Ruan Lianrong, frightened, jumped onto Wen Zhuang, clinging tightly to him and wailing about assassins. When Zhuang patted Ruan Lianrong's back, gently comforting her not to be afraid, and explained Wen Yuan's identity, the atmosphere suddenly became awkward, with Wen Yuan watching from the side, somewhat speechless. Ruan Lianrong came to her senses and quickly jumped off Wen Zhuang. Both of them blushed awkwardly. Turning her face away, Ruan Lianrong changed the subject, muttering about how scary it was. Wen Zhuang, pretending nothing had happened, asked Wen Yuan why he had come. Wen Yuan took out a dagger from his chest and reported, confirming that Ruan Lianrong was telling the truth. There were indeed suspicious people outside Ruan Lianrong's room. He had knocked one unconscious and found this dagger, made in the linen palace, on the person. Wen Zhuang was shocked, mumbling to himself, "Made in the palace?" Hearing this, Ruan Lianrong broke out in a cold sweat. Could it be that all along, Linen's ruler Luan Yu wanted to kill her? Wen Zhuang awkwardly rubbed his nose, explaining with a bitter smile that the ruler of Linen wasn't that kind of person. Ruan Lianrong squinted suspiciously, asking how he could be so certain. "Are you very familiar with the ruler of Linen?" Wen Zhuang smiled calmly, about to reveal his identity. Just as he was about to admit who he was suddenly interrupted by Wen Yuan's light cough. Ruan Lianrong pressed Wen Zhuang to finish what he was saying about himself. Wen Zhuang began to explain his original words. He said he was from Linen and had heard of the ruler Qin Zheng's reputation for loving his people. He described the ruler as a wise monarch who cared for his subjects. Hearing this, Ruan Lianrong thought it indeed matched the Luan Yu she had written. It seemed the person trying to kill her probably wasn't Luan Yu. Wen Zhuang added that if the ruler of Linen wanted to harm the princess sent for marriage, assassinating her outside Linen's borders would be unnecessary. Ruan Lianrong was also puzzled. If it wasn't Luan Yu, then who had been trying to kill her all this time? Suddenly, the door was pushed open, and Ning Wuge anxiously inquired about Ruan Lianrong's condition. He knelt before Ruan Lianrong, apologizing and reporting that the assassins had been killed. Unfortunately, they couldn't keep one alive to investigate their identity. He blamed himself for arriving too late. Ruan Lianrong, however, was unconcerned. She smiled, saying she was fine, thanks to hiding at Wen Zhuang's place. Wen Zhuang, however, feigned modesty, praising Ruan Lianrong's alertness for leaving her room, which saved her. Otherwise, by the time Ning Wuge arrived, it would have been too late. Ning Wuge also gave Wen Zhuang a meaningful smile, implying something in his words. He openly praised the high martial arts skills of Wen Zhuang's attendants. He said Wen Zhuang really didn't seem like an ordinary doctor, actually indicating that he suspected Wen Zhuang's true identity. Wen Zhuang calmly responded. He countered by questioning Ning Wugue's absence from the inn at the crucial moment, doubting his other whereabouts outside Linen's borders. The two faced off, their gazes seemingly capable of killing each other. Ruan Lianrong reluctantly stepped in as a peacemaker, calming both of them. She pointed out that nothing had happened so far, so they should focus on what to do next. Ning Wugue immediately became serious, advising Ruan Lianrong to return to the carriage to prevent assassins from making another attempt. Ruan Lianrong obediently nodded in agreement. She put on her cloak and followed Wen Zhuang and Ning Wugue out. Unexpectedly, they found themselves surrounded by a group of soldiers outside the door. Ning Wugue stood protectively in front of Ruan Lianrong, warily eyeing the soldiers. The commander pointed at the three of them and asked the waiter to confirm. The waiter eagerly spoke to the commander, saying these three were suspicious and surely had ill intentions towards Linen. He urged the commander to arrest them for thorough questioning. Ruan Lianrong angrily accused the waiter of slandering them, countering that it was the waiter who was acting suspiciously and had harmful intentions. The waiter, however, pointed to the bodies of several black-clad men in the room, insisting that Ruan Lianrong was behaving improperly. Ruan Lianrong shouted that those were clearly assassins who had come to kill her, but no one seemed to listen to her explanation. Helpless, Ruan Lianrong had no choice but to reveal her identity as the imperial princess. She sternly rebuked them, challenging anyone to dare approach. The commander, however, dismissed this claim, saying it didn't matter which country she was from. In Linen, they must follow Linen's laws. He then coldly drew his sword, ordering his soldiers to arrest the three of them. With the commander's order, just as the soldiers were about to surround them, when Zhuang pulled out a token, halting their actions. With an arrogant expression, he told the commander, "Since you're so keen on following Lenin's laws, take a good look at this token in my hand. Do you recognize it?" The commander looked closely and was shocked to see it was a royal token. In the daylight, a servant supported his sister, leading the young master of the Qingsha gang to the small house where Ruan Lianrong and the others were detained. "Young master, I've confined the three of them here," the servant said, bowing respectfully. The Qingsha gang's young master was picking his ear, absent-mindedly acknowledging him. Then he stopped his action, a somewhat lewd smile appearing on his face. "By the way, how does that person impersonating the imperial princess look? Is she pretty?" The servant repeatedly affirmed, "Yes, she's quite beautiful." The Qingsha gang's young master turned around, looking somewhat displeased at the person behind him. "If she's beautiful, why did you come along?" He stepped forward and pushed open the door of the house. "Remember, no matter what sounds come from inside, don't enter." The servant could only obey and withdraw. The young master pushed the door open and entered, putting on a serious expression. He sternly questioned those detained in the room. "You're the ones impersonating the imperial marriage procession, aren't you?" Inside, the three were tied to a thick wooden post, their hands bound with thin rope. Ning Wugue glared at him fiercely, while Wen Zhuang showed little reaction. The young master continued, "Now that you're in the Qingsha gang's territory, you'd better hand over all your gold, silver, and jewels. And don't even think about escaping." He stepped forward, grasping Ruan Lianrong's chin, grinning. "Especially you, pretty little thing. You can be my 38th concubine." Ruan Lianrong put on a pitiful, wronged expression, looking even more pitiable. "Can I only be the 38th concubine?" When Zhuang silently held back his laughter, Ruan Lianrong continued, "If I tell you the true whereabouts of the imperial princess, how will the young master reward me?" The young master's face lit up with joy. He said smugly, "Really? If you tell me the imperial princess's whereabouts, I'll marry you immediately as my chief wife." Seeing the fish take the bait, Ruan Lianrong chuckled. "All right then, come closer, husband." Ning Wugue had already raised a burlap sack, quietly waiting nearby. As the Qingsha gang's young master leaned in, the next moment the sack was over his head. Ning Wugue immediately tied the opening tightly with a rope. The young master struggled, but could only make muffled sounds. The ropes binding the three had been untied. Ning Wugue and Wen Zhuang were punching and kicking the hooded Qingsha gang young master. "Ouch! It hurts!" The Qingsha gang young master curled up on the ground, clutching his head. Ruan Lianrong watched from the side, adding fuel to the fire. "Young master, didn't you want me to be rougher?" The guards at the door could only hear Ruan Lianrong's voice and the young master's screams from inside. "Young master, scream a little louder." One servant couldn't bear to listen anymore. He couldn't help but say, "The young master's screams sound so miserable. Are we sure we shouldn't go in?" Another servant, already used to this, replied, "You don't know. Our young master and his dozens of concubines always play like this. It's fine." Little did they know, Ning Wugue and Wen Zhuang had finished teaching the Qingsha gang young master a lesson and were now hiding behind the door, ready to deal with the two guards outside. Wen Zhuang pushed the door open slightly. "I'll take the one on the east." Ning Wugue nodded. "Then I'll go west. We'll meet up later." The two who were just chatting had their pressure point struck and were kicked away. Soon after, all the servants in the Qingsha gang were bound and kneeling before the three. Their young master, still hooded, knelt in the middle, grimacing and crying out in pain. Ruan Lianrong held a tree branch she had found somewhere, tapping it slowly against her palm. "Is everyone here?" When Zhuang replied, "General Ning is quite capable. He even caught the kitchen chef trying to escape." The entire Qingsha gang had been defeated. Ning Wugue stood behind, one hand on his hip. "You flatter me." Ruan Lianrong stopped tapping her palm. "In that case, I'll begin the interrogation." She pointed the branch at the Qingsha gang young master. "Who are you? Speak up quickly." The Qingsha gang young master just kept shouting, "Don't kill me! Don't kill me!" Ruan Lianrong removed the burlap sack from his head. The Qingsha gang young master's face was already bruised and swollen. He defiantly said, "My father is the Qingsha gang leader. He's very rich. He'll ransom me back." Hearing this, Ruan Lianrong's smile became even more menacing. Although the Qingsha gang has been committing all sorts of evil lately, they've mostly just been after money. "You came to kill me right away. Tell me, Who sent you? The Qingsha gang young master's eyes darted around, seemingly trying to avoid the question, but this only further indicated his guilt. It was clear there was someone behind this. While he was still hesitating, a sword was placed against his neck. Ning Wuguei said sternly, "I don't want to hear nonsense." The Qingsha gang young master trembled as he pulled out a piece of paper from his pocket. It was a mysterious man. He gave me a prescription. With shaking hands, he presented the paper. He told me to kill the imperial princess. Ruan Lianrong took the prescription. The Qingsha gang young master cried heavily. He said he could help the Qingsha gang conquer Shangji. It was all his doing. Ruan Lianrong looked at the prescription thoughtfully. No wonder Ning Wuguei couldn't defeat those bandits earlier. It was because of this drug powder. Without further ado, Ruan Lianrong grabbed the Qingsha gang young master's collar. "What other clues do you have about this mysterious person?" The Qingsha gang young master was sweating profusely. Tears rolled down his face. "I don't know anything else, but he said his name was Luan Yu." Hearing that name, Wen Zhuang and Ruan Lianrong's expressions changed simultaneously. Ruan Lianrong raised her hand to strike. "What? That's just hearsay. Do you have any proof?" The Qingsha gang young master quickly replied, "In my clothes. There's a letter she sent. You can see for yourself." Ning Wuguei crouched down and found the letter from Luan Yu in his clothes, handing it to Ruan Lianrong. "Princess, look." Ruan Lianrong examined the letter, her brows furrowed. The signature indeed read Luan Yu. She clutched the letter tightly. "But in my setting, Linen's ruler Luan Yu isn't the type to collude with such people." She stared at the letter, lost in thought. Could it be another butterfly effect? Seeing Ruan Lianrong's prolonged silence, Ning Wuguei grew concerned. He spoke up, "If the letter is authentic, Princess, will you still go to Linen?" When Zhuang lowered his gaze beside them, his expression equally troubled. "Who could it be?" Ruan Lianrong shook her head. "Even so, I still need to go to Linen." He kicked the still kneeling Qingsha gang young master. "Where did you take all our things?" The Qingsha gang young master quickly pointed. "In that room over there, in the west wing." "Don't worry, nothing has been touched." Ruan Lianrong discussed with the two. "Let's settle here for tonight. We'll continue our journey tomorrow." Ning Wuguei acknowledged the order. The Qingsha gang's location was remote, but the natural environment was quite nice. Nestled by mountains and waters, it was very serene. A white dove cooed as it landed on Wen Zhuang's fingertip. Wen Zhuang caught the white dove, inserted a small note into its claw, then released it back into the air. Wen Zhuang watched the dove's silhouette as it flew away, looking particularly lonely and desolate. The next moment, a strange noise came from the nearby bushes. "Your life is mine," followed by the sound of clucking attacks. Ruan Lianrong let out an ouch behind the bushes, crouching down and doing something unknown. When Zhuang looked somewhat helpless, Ruan Lianrong was crawling on the ground, staring at two proud roosters in front of her. Gritting her teeth, she muttered, "I don't believe it. I'll get you today." When Zhuang walked over, standing behind the crawling Ruan Lianrong. "Princess, it's almost dawn. We're leaving early tomorrow. Why aren't you sleeping? What are you doing here, catching chickens?" Ruan Lianrong was exasperated. She stood up with her hands on her hips. "It's because they're making so much noise. I can't sleep. I want to turn them into finger-licking chicken. Let's see if they dare to be so arrogant then." When Zhuang stood beside Ruan Lianrong, silently closing his mouth, Ruan Lianrong, who was initially high-spirited, suddenly deflated. "Although I don't know how to make it, I also don't know how to catch them." Hearing this, when Zhuang chuckled softly, his smile carrying a hint of indulgence and helplessness. He rolled up his sleeves and walked in front of Ruan Lianrong. "Let me do it. Although I don't know the method for your finger-licking chicken, I do know how to make beggar's chicken." Feathers flew everywhere as the roosters clucked and flapped about wildly. Soon, the mud-wrapped beggar's chicken was placed on an iron rack, sizzling as it roasted. A rich aroma wafted out continuously. When Zhuang rolled up his sleeves and fanned the fire with a fan, trying to make the flames stronger. Ruan Lianrong sat beside him, her face full of admiration. "When Zhuang, you're amazing." When Zhuang smiled and said, "It's nothing. I'm used to living outdoors, so I have some skills." The outer clay shell was cracked open, revealing the steaming hot roasted chicken. Ruan Lianrong tore off a chicken leg. "Well then, I won't be polite." At this moment, when Zhuang suddenly reached out his hand. "There's something on your nose. Let me help you." When Zhuang's hand brushed Ruan Lianrong's cheek, Ruan Lianrong immediately blushed. Fortunately, she quickly regained her composure. "Such a beautiful night, such delicious food. How can we not have wine?" She produced a jar of wine from somewhere. Luckily, I secretly hid this bandit wine. If you're my brother, have a drink with me. After drinking an unknown amount, Ruan Lianrong's eyes were already a bit hazy. Her cheeks were flushed, indicating the alcohol had taken effect. She hiccuped. Beside her, there were countless empty wine jars. Wen Zhuang was still roasting chicken, while Ruan Lianrong hugged a jar of wine. Wen Zhuang, how can you be such a good cook as a doctor and have such a high alcohol tolerance? Ruan Lianrong paused for a moment, then continued with a love-struck expression that looked somewhat comical. And you're so handsome, too. Hearing these words, Wen Zhuang's hand paused while roasting the meat. He looked up, smiling at the already slightly drunk and dazed Ruan Lianrong. Princess, you're drunk. Ruan Lianrong tossed aside the wine jar and moved closer to Wen Zhuang. She imitated the manner of a flirtatious rogue, pinching Wen Zhuang's chin with one hand. While grinning foolishly, she tried to tease Wen Zhuang. Smile for me, pretty boy. Wen Zhuang froze, his face turning dark. He grabbed Ruan Lianrong's hand that was touching his face haphazardly, then tried to move the wine jar away from her. Princess, you can't drink anymore. Ruan Lianrong snatched the wine jar back. She retorted with a red face, I'm not drunk, though this statement lacked any convincing power. Then she put down the wine jar and lunged towards Wen Zhuang, still saying flirtatious words. Handsome boy, why don't you just give in to me? She reached out to touch Wen Zhuang's long hair near his ear, rambling. I'll write books to make money and support the family. You just be pretty. Wen Zhuang's face suddenly turned red at some point. Ruan Lianrong fell down, leaning into Wen Zhuang's arms, still fantasizing about her beautiful future with the pretty boy. Future. We can buy a big house with 3 bedrooms and 2 living rooms. We can also... Before she could finish, Ruan Lianrong passed out in Wen Zhuang's arms, unable to handle the alcohol. Wen Zhuang was stunned. Never before had a woman drunk herself to sleep in his arms like this. The sudden situation left Wen Zhuang at a loss. His hand hovered in midair, unsure where to place it. An attendant appeared behind him at some point. Master, shall I take the princess back to her room? Wen Zhuang refused. He stood up, scooped up Ruan Lianrong's knees, and carried her entirely. Wen Zhuang's cheeks were flushed. Looking at the sleeping Ruan Lianrong in his arms, he thought, what a nonsensical little liar. The next day, the group, along with the vehicles, horses, and manpower seized from the bandit leader, arrived at the border gate of Linen Country. The gate guard stopped them. Oh, who goes there? Ning Wugui, riding at the front, took out the travel documents. We are envoys from Shangji Country. Here are our travel papers. The gate guard took the documents. Wait here, I'll call the gate officer. The gate officer nearby took the papers. He opened and read them carefully. So you're envoys from Shangji. What a pity. Ning Wugui frowned. What do you mean? The gate officer closed the documents and smiled apologetically. According to linen law, once the border gate is closed, even the ruler cannot enter or exit at will. I'm afraid you won't be able to enter the city today. However, there's an inn outside the city. As envoys who've come from afar, you can rest there for 2 days. Hearing the commotion outside, Ruan Lianrong lifted the carriage curtain. What's happening? Ning Wugui turned to Ruan Lianrong and said, the city lord of Yongding, the border city of Linen, is making excuses. The city gate is closed, and they can't receive us. They want us to rest at an inn outside the city for the night. Hearing this, Wen Zhuang, riding on horseback nearby, raised an eyebrow. Ruan Lianrong yawned. She hadn't slept well due to last night's events and was now extremely tired. Hearing Ning Wugui's words, she didn't think much about it and just agreed. All right, let's find a place to make do for now. Ning Wugui pulled the reins, turned around, and said to the servants brought from the Qingsha gang, escort the princess to find an inn to stay. The group turned around and headed towards the inn. A gate guard whispered in the gate officer's ear, Sir, the inn has been contacted as planned. The gate officer's previously honest and simple smile instantly disappeared, replaced by an extremely sinister and terrifying expression. Remember to do it cleanly. Don't let their blood touch the soil of our Yongding city. The carriage moved further and further away. The three were still unaware of what awaited them. After traveling for a few miles, they finally arrived at the nearest inn. The inn was called Silverite Inn. It was a 2-story building, and the decor was passable. Ruan Lianrong stretched lazily as she entered the inn, sighing that she must take a bath tonight. Ning Wugui gave a gold ingot to the innkeeper, booking the entire inn and requesting no disturbances. The innkeeper, holding an abacus in one hand and the gold ingot in the other, was beaming with joy. He had never seen such extravagant wealth. After receiving the gold ingot, he repeatedly agreed, "Understood, understood." Ning Wugue said to Ruan Lianrong, "Princess, I'll go check on the horses first. You and Mr. Wenjuang can go upstairs to rest." Ruan Lianrong nodded in agreement. After Ning Wugue left, the innkeeper didn't keep them waiting long. He quickly came with a tray holding room keys. "The Tian character room is ready for you. Honored guests, please go upstairs. If you need anything, just let me know." After a long journey, Ruan Lianrong was already starving. Certainly. First, prepare a table of good wine and food for me. This princess will surely reward you generously before leaving. After all, it's Mr. Ning who's paying. Ruan Lianrong picked up a room tag from the tray. After choosing the room, Ruan Lianrong followed Wenjuang upstairs. What a coincidence, Wenjuang. She grinned at Wenjuang walking in front of her. "We're staying next door." Wenjuang nodded. The accountant nearby glanced at the two of them. Ruan Lianrong paused on her way up. "But why do I feel like someone's watching me?" That cold feeling coming from all directions made Ruan Lianrong shiver. It felt like gazes were tightly wrapped around her, making it hard to breathe. After a series of unexpected events, Ruan Lianrong had become very vigilant. She could quickly detect unusual atmospheres around her. Ruan Lianrong instinctively turned her head to look at the people in the lobby downstairs. However, they were all looking down. The waiters were diligently wiping tables. People were lowering their heads to drink tea and eat. Everyone was busy with their own affairs. It seemed that Ruan Lianrong's momentary unease was just an illusion. Perhaps she was just being overly cautious, seeing enemies everywhere. Even Ruan Lianrong herself was puzzled. Could she have been mistaken? To be safe, Ruan Lianrong didn't intend to dismiss this as an illusion. She quickly walked up behind Wenjuang and tugged at his sleeve. When Zhuang turned around, Ruan Lianrong continued in a low voice, "I feel something's not right here. It's like someone's been watching us. Does Linen also have those human flesh bun black shops?" When Zhuang held Ruan Lianrong's hand, gesturing for her to stay calm. "Princess, don't worry. Linen has honest customs. There won't be any human flesh bun shops. If anything happens, the general and I are right next door. Just call us anytime." Hearing this, Ruan Lianrong finally relaxed. She quickly nodded, "No problem." Ruan Lianrong looked at the person who had removed his mask. The unique earring and the dragon tiger jade pendant at his waist made her realize that this person was actually Qi Feng, the young emperor of Zimu country. Rumor had it that Qi Feng ascended the throne at 8, and by 10, he had established his authority in court with thunderous might. Decisive in killing, ruthless in methods, at 16 he had consecutively conquered 5 countries, expanding his territory. When he was crowned, he was only 17. It was said that he was born under an ill-fated star, causing all his empresses to die on their wedding nights. Thinking of this, Ruan Lianrong nervously uttered his name. Qi Feng openly admitted his identity. After speaking, Qi Feng placed his hand on Ruan Lianrong's shoulder, preparing for his next move. Frightened, Ruan Lianrong quickly called for him to stop. Qi Feng, as if expecting this reaction, deliberately leaned close to Ruan Lianrong, softly asking what was wrong with his little beauty. Ruan Lianrong tried her best to calm down, but in reality, she was completely panicking. She never imagined that a supporting character from her novel could be so flirtatious. But then she thought following the plot would be simple. She started to convince herself that she could handle this. But she quickly realized that Linen and Muse were now dividing this world between them. The two countries would inevitably go to war sooner or later, and Shangji was caught in the middle. So, for the sake of her innocence, she had to take a risk. She loudly told Qi Feng that she knew how to defeat Linen. Sure enough, Qi Feng became very interested. He released Ruan Lianrong, sat down, and asked her to elaborate with great interest. So Ruan Lianrong began a long spiel of persuasion. After listening, Qi Feng was excited. He took the opportunity to press Ruan Lianrong onto the bed, expressing his doubts. He had thought Ruan Lianrong was just a simpleton, but after hearing her speech, he suddenly felt that this person was not so simple. This instead sparked Qi Feng's interest in Ruan Lianrong. He gently lifted Ruan Lianrong's flushed face, telling her he had an even better idea. Suddenly, a flying dagger came towards them. Qi Feng protected Ruan Lianrong, but the daggers still grazed past them. Hitting the pillar, Qi Feng took the note attached to the dagger. It read, "Only by opening the Guanxin formation can one obtain the Dragon Eye Sword." Ruan Lianrong suddenly appeared beside him, standing on tiptoe and asking the soul-searching question. Could the Dragon Eye Sword mentioned be the legendary ancient divine sword? Qi Feng disdainfully pushed Ruan Lianrong aside, pondering to himself. He hadn't destroyed Shangji back then, thinking to let the country fend for itself, so he never sent troops to conquer it. Unexpectedly, the elusive Dragon Eye Sword was in Shangji. Qi Feng bowed to Ruan Lianrong. He now wanted to take Ruan Lianrong to the stargazing assembly. Ruan Lianrong was on the verge of tears. The very thing she had tried so hard to avoid had finally come. At this time, many onlookers had gathered outside the stargazing tower. Everyone was anxiously waiting for the start of the assembly, some even growing impatient. Everyone hoped for a good omen for Guanxing this year. Shangji had experienced continuous natural and man-made disasters this year, possibly due to Ruan Lianrong's resurrection. Some even said that after tonight, the emperor would have Ruan Lianrong sacrificed to the heavens. Many in the crowd agreed. If Ruan Lianrong hadn't always clung to General Ning, the general wouldn't have been defeated. Just as they were saying the Xinwu clan should die, Qi Feng arrived on horseback with Ruan Lianrong. The crowd was surprised that Qi Feng had found Ruan Lianrong. Qi Feng respectfully helped Ruan Lianrong dismount. Suddenly, a call of Ronger interrupted Qi Feng. Ruan Lianrong's royal brother, and when Zhuang approached, Ruan Lianrong's brother looked at Qi Feng with hostility, pulling Ruan Lianrong behind him protectively. He loudly rebuked, demanding to know who Qi Feng was and what he had done to his sister. Anger flashed across Qi Feng's face, a sharp knife appearing at his fingertips. Ruan Lianrong broke into a cold sweat, trying to appear calm as she held back her brother. Trembling, she told her brother she was fine. Hearing it was her brother, Qi Feng immediately changed his demeanor, putting on a professional fake smile and trying to get friendly with Ruan Lianrong's brother. "Oh, it's my brother-in-law? It's all a misunderstanding." Ruan Lianrong's brother became even angrier, rolling up his sleeves and shouting loudly, "Who's your brother-in-law?" He even wanted to fight Qi Feng. Ruan Lianrong quickly grabbed her charging brother, leaning close to his ear to quietly tell him that Qi Feng was actually the young emperor of Muse. At this point, when Zhuang started to lose control, inwardly cursing Qi Feng for daring to compete with him for a woman, it was simply asking for death. Suddenly, someone called out to him from behind. They secretly informed Shangji that all the people arranged by the emperor and empress had been cleared out. However, Muse had only brought one person and one horse this time. When Zhuang was stunned, thinking Qi Feng was too daring. In the Great Hall, Qi Feng formally announced to the emperor and empress that Ruan Lianrong would be his queen from now on, tightly gripping her hand. Ruan Lianrong rolled her eyes, unable to break free. She was internally devastated. It was all her fault for being careless. If it weren't for trying to portray the male and female leads as good people, she wouldn't have written all these supporting characters as perverts. Now, these boomerangs were all hitting her. These perverts were coming out to mess with her mind. The emperor immediately declared it inappropriate, but Qi Feng showed no respect, directly questioning why it was inappropriate. He then dropped a bombshell, claiming they had already consummated their marriage. Ruan Lianrong cursed inwardly when Zhuang entered and began logical reasoning. It had only been an hour since Qi Feng abducted Ruan Lianrong, with half an hour needed for the round trip. Adding in other miscellaneous time, it seemed Qi Feng was incompetent. When Zhuang continued to stir the fire, saying that although Muse was powerful, for a ruler to make such a significant decision so hastily was truly disappointing. In an instant, the two men were smiling on the surface but already at odds behind the scenes. Qi Feng took the initiative, questioning Wen Zhuang's identity, not forgetting to imply, are all of Shangji's emperor and empress's people so lacking in manners? Letting someone without any official position shout here. Wen Zhuang was immediately speechless. In this situation, Ruan Lianrong had a sudden inspiration. Since everyone said she was destined to be an empress, she decided to change her fate. She would choose this man without rank or title as her husband. So, with a stroke of genius, Ruan Lianrong hugged Wen Zhuang and sweetly told Qi Feng, "This man isn't without a position. Being my husband is his highest rank." She didn't forget to shyly tell Qi Feng that she and Wen Zhuang had already consummated their marriage. With a face full of happiness, Ruan Lianrong gently caressed Wen Zhuang's face, tenderly telling him she wanted to make their relationship public. Wen Zhuang was stunned by Ruan Lianrong's actions, his face turning red. Seeing Wen Zhuang's lack of response, Ruan Lianrong pinched him hard. Wen Zhuang immediately snapped into action, seamlessly playing along with Ruan Lianrong's act, calling her darling sweetly. Then, with newfound confidence, Wen Zhuang turned to Qi Feng and angrily rebuked him, saying even the king of Muse couldn't forcibly take a commoner's wife, forcing someone to be his wife. Qi Feng seemed to listen, actually appearing to seriously consider what Wen Zhuang had said. Ruan Lianrong couldn't help but grumble inwardly. She could only rely on herself. A pervert like Qi Feng couldn't help at all. This season's boomerang deservedly hit her. At this moment, the emperor spoke a few diplomatic words. It was Ruan Lianrong's fortune to be liked by both of them. But today, Ruan Lianrong had more important things to do. They would discuss it after the official ceremony. The emperor and empress began to urge, saying the auspicious time had arrived. They needed to quickly open the Guanxin formation. Ruan Lianrong was on the verge of tears. This wasn't an auspicious time. It was clearly her time of death. Who told her to set it up so that the witch's blood in this body would be drained when touching the Guanxin formation? She would definitely be completely destroyed. She could only summon Mr. Shu. Ruan Lianrong asked Mr. Shu with a helpless expression if she had any chance of resurrection. Mr. Shu calmly told Ruan Lianrong there was no chance of resurrection at all. "Face the wind," he said. But Ruan Lianrong didn't give up. As she turned to leave, she kept telling herself she must find a way to bypass this plot point. Suddenly, she was grabbed. Ruan Lianrong turned to see Wen Zhuang. He wanted to accompany her. Everyone arrived in front of the Guanxin formation. Looking at the huge formation on the wall, Ruan Lianrong had some doubts. Would such a beautiful formation really drain her blood? She really couldn't think of a solution. She couldn't just chop it down with an axe. The formation couldn't be cut down anyway. Mr. Shu appeared calmly beside Ruan Lianrong, telling her that the Guanxin formation was linked to the lifeblood of the book world. If she used an axe to chop it, the book world would also be damaged, leading to some irreparable consequences. Ruan Lianrong then abandoned this violent idea. She gently placed her hand on the formation, thinking she should use her strengths. Of the 36 stratagems, retreat is the best option. As the author of this book, how could she not come up with a solution? Well, she really couldn't. Ruan Lianrong instantly wanted to mourn for herself. Why did she give Ruan Lianrong such a character setting? But suddenly, she had an inspiration. She had once set up a language, the Wuxia language. Ruan Lianrong's life was that of a royal family's sacrificial body. But after she transmigrated, she hadn't experienced the royal family's orders, but was about to experience being a sacrificial body. She could only make them believe that she would only be useful as a sacrifice after becoming queen. At least this way, she could live a bit longer. So she started to act. The emperor behind her asked how she felt. Wen Zhuang quickly came forward to support her. Ruan Lianrong immediately feigned weakness, saying she felt a very powerful force. It seemed to be calling her. She even faintly heard a dragon's roar. The three people with ulterior motives all realized this must be the dragon eye sword they were looking for. But suddenly, Ruan Lianrong changed her tone, telling everyone that the dragon eye sword rejected her because she hadn't become a sacrificial body yet. It wouldn't resonate with her. Everyone secretly glanced at their phones. At this moment, Qi Feng stepped forward, proposing a solution. Why not marry him immediately? This way, she would be the queen of Muse, a legitimate sacrificial body. Ruan Lianrong quickly denied it. She was very confident that her made-up story would fool them. She opened her eyes and slowly said that she needed to become the empress of a unified empire. Hearing this, Qi Feng calmly stated Ruan Lianrong's purpose. After opening the Guanxin formation, let Qi Feng attack Linen. This was exactly what Ruan Lianrong was waiting for. She smiled at Qi Feng, improvising and acting at the same time. She told him that was correct. However, King Wan Yu of Linen liked her. If Qi Feng attacked Linen just to marry her, he definitely wouldn't let it go easily. He would fight to the death with Qi Feng, who told him to love her so deeply. She had attempted suicide before to escape his love. Ruan Lianrong's shamelessness shocked Wen Zhuang. The emperor thought what she said made sense. The matter of opening the Guanxin Formation could be discussed later. Everyone could disperse for today. Everyone was pleased. When Zhuang looked at Ruan Lianrong, feeling she was different from before, she was becoming more and more interesting. A few days later, news spread that the princess's mansion was recruiting courtiers, both male and female. The conditions were excellent, including food and lodging. People rushed to sign up, and those who got in were so excited they ran through the streets, shouting that they could see the princess now. When Zhuang was confused and went to see what was happening, a guard tore down a notice and handed it to him. It clearly stated that the princess's mansion was recruiting beautiful courtiers and would even pay wages. Their main duty was to accompany the princess to appreciate flowers and chat. Such a good opportunity when Zhuang decided to check it out. Inside the princess's mansion, there was indeed a crowd of people and a fragrant atmosphere. Ruan Lianrong was drooling while instructing the servants to arrange these beauties in the courtyard. Actually, she had her own plan. In the book's setting, the witch who could switch identities with her was discovered by her royal brother among these courtiers, so she could exploit the loophole. As long as Ruan Lianrong continued along the original plot line, she could successfully escape the imperial city. Just as she was feeling pleased, a servant told her someone had left a notice saying they were waiting for her in the back garden. Ruan Lianrong went to the back garden with curiosity. She guessed it might be Wen Zhuang. When she arrived at the back garden, she saw a beauty playing the zither. Ruan Lianrong instantly blushed. Upon seeing Ruan Lianrong, the person stopped playing. They gently introduced themselves to the princess. This person's name was Jiang Qixin. They had left the notice hoping to pay respects to the princess. Hearing this name, Ruan Lianrong's heart skipped a beat. She confirmed again if the person in front of her was really called Jiang Qixin. The answer was affirmative. Jiang Qixin even asked in surprise if she knew them. Ruan Lianrong instinctively gave an affirmative answer, but then denied it, claiming she didn't know them. But they would soon get to know each other. It turned out that the master of the Dark Night Pavilion was Jiang Qixin. Their real name was Jiang Yalan, who disguised as a poet named Jiang Qixin while wandering among the common people. But this character was supposed to appear much later in the story. Why did they show up so early? This person was the hope of the Shangji kingdom. Ruan Lianrong was secretly delighted, looking at the person in front of her with ill intentions. There really was always hope. Jiang Qixin, seeing Ruan Lianrong's expression, became a bit scared, thinking she might do something. They could only wave their hands, explaining that they were just a humble zither player. There's no need for the princess to be so polite. Ruan Lianrong immediately stepped forward to express her attitude, telling Jiang Qixin that he wasn't an ordinary zither player. His zither was the most sacred weapon. The music he played was the most beautiful divine music, and he was the light in her heart. Jiang Qixin looked embarrassed, silently muttering to himself. Could it be that Ruan Lianrong knew him? But Ruan Lianrong wasn't aware of this. She hugged the zither, her heart full of beautiful visions. Finally, there was hope for saving the country. So she said to Jiang Qixin, since he had left his own notice, he was now a courtier of the princess's mansion. The princess's mansion could protect him in various ways. She returned the zither to Jiang Qixin. However, Ruan Lianrong accidentally stepped on Jiang Qixin's foot. He lost his grip and threw the zither, falling towards Jiang Qixin's arms. Indeed, she fell into his arms. At that moment, her heart was racing. The atmosphere was unusually ambiguous. Both of them blushed slightly. In reality, their hands were desperately trying to grab the zither that had flown out earlier. They fell to the ground in a strange posture. When Zhuang, who saw this scene from afar, angrily hit a tree trunk and let out a cold laugh. He jealously watched the two disheveled people walk nearby. He reminded the seventh princess that her injuries hadn't fully healed yet. In such cold weather, she should take care of her health. Ruan Lianrong immediately got up from Jiang Qixin, straightened her clothes, and awkwardly responded that indeed it was getting late. She should return soon. Before she finished speaking, Jiang Qixin sneakily approached again. He gently whispered in Ruan Lianrong's ear, saying she had guessed his identity, which was why he was disheveled. Ruan Lianrong almost lost control. Then, Jiang Qixin resumed his gentlemanly appearance. Ruan Lianrong felt that if she stayed any longer, she would become a pervert. She inwardly exclaimed how misleading appearances could be. She could only make an excuse about preparing for tonight's banquet and left first. When Zhuang and Jiang Qixin finally faced each other, Wen Zhuang directly revealed Jiang Qixian's identity. The master of the Dark Knight Pavilion actually had such an elegant pen name. What was his purpose for infiltrating the princess's mansion? Jiang Qixian remained calm and sarcastically replied that he didn't expect the ruler of Linen to be at the princess's mansion. The two instantly became hostile. When Zhuang retreated from the battlefield first, Jiang Qixian hugged his zither tightly. He started to get excited. The night at the princess's mansion was filled with cicada sounds. At the banquet, Ruan Lianrong looked at the delicious food served on the table, drooling. But she pretended to be reserved and said it would be best if everyone enjoyed the food together. The guard said that the snow lotus fruit was personally picked by Wen Zhuang for the princess. He hoped the princess would try it. The maid said that Jiang Qixian personally cooked royal jelly almond cookies for the princess. She hoped the princess would taste them. Ruan Lianrong successfully began to struggle. Eating both together would definitely upset her stomach. But choosing between the two was indeed difficult. Both were not to be trifled with. It was really frustrating. At this moment, when Zhuang and Jiang Qixian stood up simultaneously, one said that since the princess's injuries hadn't healed, she should eat the fresh snow lotus fruit. It would be good for her health. She should eat mine. The other said that royal jelly was extremely precious and perfect for nourishing the princess's body. Of course, she should eat my almond cookies. Ruan Lianrong faced this happy trouble. She couldn't help but feel worried. These were just courtiers, and they were already jealous. If this were in the harem, wouldn't she be troubled to death every day? It's truly difficult to deal with men and petty people. The weak, pitiful, and helpless princess was caught between two men. They had no self-awareness. They insisted that she choose one. This century's difficult problem really troubled the seventh princess. At this moment, a man stood up. First, he congratulated Ruan Lianrong for recruiting so many talented people. It was truly a blessing from the imperial edict. However, during this long night, wouldn't the princess feel bored? Why not let him present a special performance? Ruan Lianrong became interested. The man continued to raise the stakes, saying the princess would definitely like it. So she asked him to present it quickly. When Zhuang finally understood, so Ruan Lianrong didn't want to marry him because she wanted to indulge in pleasure all day at the princess's mansion. A group of maids carried in a huge lotus flower. The petals slowly opened. Inside sat a man dressed in very colorful clothes. His features were beautiful, with unparalleled charm. It turned out to be young Master Fenglu from the House of Absolute Beauty. It was said that he had admired Ruan Lianrong for a long time and was specially invited to entertain her. Ruan Lianrong was such an unparalleled beauty in this world. It was simply too fortunate.